Eileen, could we have an opening statement?
Township of Howell Zoning Board of Adjustment, Monday, July 14th, 2025. I hereby declare this meeting of the Howell Township Board to be open, adequate notice having been given pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act in the following manner. First, on January 2nd, 2025, a copy of said notice was emailed to the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger. Second, on January 2nd, 2025, a copy of said notice was hand-delivered to the clerk of the Township of Howell. Third, on January 2nd, 2025, said notice was posted in the office of the Zoning Board and on the bulletin board in the Howell Township Municipal Building, 4567 Route 9, Howell Township, New Jersey. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code and for your safety, please be advised that this facility is designed with 2 emergency exits at the front and rear of the meeting rooms. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Could we have a roll call?
Mr. Barillo.
Here.
Mr. Cantor.
Here.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. O'Donnell is excused tonight. Mr. Roscoe is absent. Mr. Ryan.
Present.
Ms. Scottson. Here. Mr. Kabarakis.
Here.
And Chairman Mertens.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, at this time, Mr. Bayer, do we have a reason to go into executive
You
session?
may want to do the pledge, and then
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Let's do the...
That would be a good idea.
Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, all's good. Do we have a reason to go into an executive session?
We do, Mr. Chairman. There are 2 reasons. We'll call it attorney-client privilege and litigation.
We need to make a motion to do that?
Yeah, do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, Eileen, you have a statement?
I do. Executive session resolution, whereas Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 13 of the New Jersey Revised Statutes requires that the public shall not be excluded from any meetings of a public body unless a resolution authorizing such exclusion is adopted at a public meeting. And whereas the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Howell has determined that such closed meeting is required to discuss certain matters which are exempted from consideration with the public in attendance under New Jersey Revised Statutes 10-4-12, namely litigation. Now therefore, be it further resolved that the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Howell, that the public shall be excluded from the next portion of this meeting, and that the Zoning Board of Adjustment will reconvene in public session thereafter. Be it further resolved that the minutes will be kept of the meeting in closed session, and the time and circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public cannot be determined at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Okay. Good evening, everybody. We're going to reconvene the meeting. Andy, could you swear in our professionals?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Oh, we lost Shari for a minute. Okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your names for the record.
Charles Cunliffe.
Christine Bell.
Your professionals are sworn, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
When
Andy.
Shari comes back, we'll have to swear her.
Okay,
Yeah.
no worries. Okay, Eileen, any approval of minutes?
No minutes to approve tonight.
Correspondence?
I have no correspondence for tonight.
Okay, we do have some resolutions. The first one is case number BA 22-15A, ZS Mill 1 LLC. Resolution amended preliminary final major site plan approval. Eligible voters, Barillo, Cantor, Hughes, O'Donnell, Orozco, Ryan, Scottson, Kabarakis, and Mertens. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cantor.
Mr.
Roll-
Barillo.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Barillo.
Yes.
Mr. Cantor.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Scottson.
Yes.
Mr. Kabarakis.
Yes.
And Chairman Mertens.
Yes.
Resolution memorialized.
Okay, next one is case number BA 22-10, Route 70 Properties LLC, a resolution approving extension of time. Eligible voters, Barillo, Cantor, Hughes, O'Donnell, Orozco, Ryan, and Mertens. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Cantor, second by Mr. Orozco. Roll call?
Mr. Barillo?
Yes.
Mr. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
And Chairman Mertens.
Yes.
Resolution memorialized.
Okay, next is case number BA 22-01, Haji Holdings LLC, resolution approval, use variance, PF major site plan, and PF major subdivision. Eligible voters, Barillo, Cantor, Hughes, O'Donnell, Orozco, Ryan, and Mertens. Do I have a motion?
A motion to approve.
Mr. Barillo,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Ryan. Roll call?
Mr. Barillo?
Yes.
Mr. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
And Chairman Mertens.
Yes.
Resolution memorialized.
Okay, last one is case number BA 24-06, Turkish American Religious Foundation, resolution approving conditional use variance and site plan approval. Eligible voters, Cantor, Hughes, Orozco, Ryan, Kavarakis, and Mertens. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Ryan on the motion,
Second?
second by Mr. Hughes. Roll call?
Mr. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Kaparakis?
Yes.
And Chairman Mertens.
Yes.
Resolution memorialized.
Okay, let's get the meeting going. First application tonight is case number BA 25-06, Jersey Central Power and Light Company, looking for a use variance and preliminary final site plan with both variances. The applicant is seeking approval for replacement of existing public utility structures along JCP&L transmission line corridor and improvements to a public utility substation, Larrabee. The proposed improvements include the replacement of existing lattice tower, wood pole structures along the utilities transmission line corridor on various lots and blocks, Smithburg to Larrabee. Collection station, expiration September 20th, 2025. Good evening.
Good evening. Benjamin Nadell. I'm a partner with the law firm Saul Ewing out of Princeton, New Jersey, appearing this evening on behalf of the applicant, Jersey Central Power and Light Company. The application this evening is for preliminary and final major site plan approval, along with D variance relief and C variance relief.
Is your mic, I don't know if your mic is working. Well, usually that works over there.
Yeah, just put that in front of you.
Like,
it's
make it a little closer, maybe?
Yeah, could you just spell your last name just so I have it on record?
Sure. N is in Nancy, A
Yes.
is in Apple, D-E-L-L, like the computer
Okay.
company.
That's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, now you're on the mic.
Much better, thank you.
All right. The application before you this evening is in support of the New Jersey Clean Energy Corridor Project, also known as the NJCEC project. As you will hear from JCP&L's professionals in a few minutes, this project consists of critical utility infrastructure improvements, and the overall project spans through several municipalities and 4 counties, including Monmouth, Mercer, Ocean, and Middlesex. The project has secured approvals from several municipalities this year, including Freehold, Jackson, Lakewood, and East Windsor. There's 2 components to the application this evening. The first component is the replacement of existing lattice towers and wooden structures in the utilities transmission line corridor. There's a total of 31 new steel monopoles on concrete foundations being proposed in the utilities right-of-way. The second component is to upgrade and improve the existing Larrabee electrical substation, and you will hear more about the upgrades to the substation in just a few minutes. The transmission line corridor is located within 5 zoning districts: the R2 zone, the R3 zone, the ARE2 zone, the Highway Development 1 South HD1S zone, and the Special Economic Development Zone 2. The Larrabee substation is located in the SED2 zone. Since there are several zoning districts involved, some of the zones do not permit public utilities as of right, and some of the zones permit public utilities as a conditional, as a non-permitted use. In addition, the height of the new structures exceed the height requirements for all of these zoning districts, which requires a D6 variance for the height. For these reasons, the applicant is seeking a D1 use variance and D6 variance relief from the zoning board, along with preliminary and final major site plan approval. There are also some bulk variances that we'll be discussing this evening for the new structures. So we have 4 witnesses this evening. Our first witness is Larry Hozempa, First Energy's General Manager of Planning, to explain the NJCEC project scope and the purpose. We'll then have Jeffrey Morris, a civil engineer with Boswell Engineering, who's our project site plan engineer, explain the new improvements to both the right-of-way and to the substation, and to also address the comments we received in the board professionals' review letters. We'll then call Amy Jones, the project's environmental consultant with Du Bois and Associates, to provide an overview of the environmental permitting for this project. And then finally, we'll call Christine Cafone, our professional planner, to discuss the variance relief being sought this evening by the applicant. So at this time, unless there's any questions for me, I'll go ahead and call our first witness, Mr. Hozempa.
Okay, Mr. Nadell, normally what we'll do is we'll get all the professionals sworn in first, and as they're coming up, we'll have Mr. Bear swear in, put her on the spot, our tree expert.
So, yeah, we'll just swear all your professionals in at this right now.
So shall I bring him up?
Yeah.
Bring them up, and then we'll get their qualification as they testify.
Sherry, you have to get sworn in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your names for the record, starting from my left.
Amy Jones. Christine Cafone.
Jeffrey Morris. Larry Hozempa.
Okay, your
Sure.
professionals are sworn. Thank you.
Okay,
So we'll have Mr. Hozempa stay.
and then we'll just need his qualifications on record.
Mr. Hozempa, can you please provide the board with an overview of your educational background, your current position with JCP&L
Yes, sir.
and First Energy?
Yes, good evening. My name is Larry Hozempa. I'm the General Manager of Planning with First Energy. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from Pennsylvania State University many decades ago, and started working with what was then West Penn Power Company, and I was a division planning engineer for several years. Went through various engineering positions, also went to do some time in the transmission operations group for a period of time as well, and then I went back into the planning group in 2018 in my current position, which is the general manager of planning. My group's responsible for all of the planning for the network facilities across the First Energy footprint from Toledo, Ohio to the Jersey Shore.
Sounds like you're pretty qualified, but also I just need your license is current.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank
Yes,
you
okay.
for the reminder. Yes, I'm licensed in 5 states. I'm licensed in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
West Virginia, Maryland, Virginia, and the state of New Jersey.
Okay, thank you. We accept your qualifications.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Hozempa, can you please provide the board with a general overview of the New Jersey Clean Energy Corridor project? In other words, why is JCP&L here this evening?
Yes, in Governor Murphy, by executive order in 2018, directed the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, in partnership with other state agencies, to develop a statewide clean energy plan. In 2019, the Energy Master Plan was released that included the development of 7,500 megawatts of offshore wind generation by 2035. In 2021, the New Jersey BPU coordinated with PJM, who's the regional transmission organization, to solicit project proposals to build the necessary transmission infrastructure to meet New Jersey's goal. A competitive window was opened in April 2021 for transmission developers to submit proposals for that need to PJM and the New Jersey BPU. In November 2022, after comprehensive analysis and evaluations were completed, the New Jersey BPU selected a solution from those submitted proposals. JCP&L was one of the entities that was awarded projects that did include the projects before the board this evening.
Thank you. And why are these improvements being made to the existing transmission line corridor? What is the purpose or the reasons for the new improvements?
One of the reasons the JCP&L projects were selected by the New Jersey BPU and PJM was the use of our projects using existing transmission corridors. By upgrading the transmission lines on the existing corridors, new right-of-way will not be required, and the environmental impact is limited to where a transmission line already exists. In addition, those improvements to the transmission infrastructure will not only facilitate the ability of offshore wind to be integrated into the transmission system, but the upgraded transmission lines will also provide increased capacity to the overall transmission network in this area. In other words, the benefits of the upgraded transmission lines are not unidirectional, but power will flow along the transmission lines in either direction depending on the system needs at the time.
And what type of benefits will be provided after these improvements are installed? And specifically, what are the local benefits to Howell Township?
Well, Howell Township, I believe, is one of the faster growing townships in New Jersey, and I think the population is 55,000, approaching 60,000 now, so I'm not sure exactly where it is in that range. But primarily the benefits to Howell Township will be the rebuilt transmission line serving the Larrabee substation. It will be new infrastructure. It will also have additional capacity. So in addition, the improvements that are being made to the Larrabee substation will benefit Howell and the surrounding communities as the infrastructure improvements provide the substation with the ability to serve and support the 34.5 kV transmission network that serves the substations that then serve the distribution circuits that serve the majority of the customers in this area.
Do you know the approximate number of customers served by the new improvements? How many of those customers are in Howell Township?
If you count the number of meters that JCP&L serves, there's about 22,000 meters. So again, there's residents, which is the number of people, and then accounts, which would be the number of meters. So about 22,000 meters in Howell Township. So Larrabee Substation directly serves about 13,000 customers. Of those 13,000 customers served directly out of Larrabee Substation, 8,400 of those customers are in Howell Township.
And do these improvements only serve Howell Township residents, or do these upgrades also provide service to residents and businesses outside of Howell Township?
The improvements will support the transmission system in the area, including Howell Township, but the improvements will benefit other residents and businesses beyond Howell Township as well.
So what towns are they?
Well, it'll be primarily where Larrabee is situated, I think, and I can't remember the name of the townships and the communities immediately surrounding Larrabee substation proper, but the transmission lines that are being constructed as part of the NJCEC stretch all the way from the Raritan Bay over to Lawrence, and then, of course, to Larrabee, and I think it goes down to Manitou as well. So, I mean, there's a pretty good region that's being touched as part of this NJCEC project.
Okay,
Now, not specifically the upgrades we're talking about tonight, but the overall NJCEC.
Okay.
What I'd like to do now is have you highlight some of the additional and very important benefits that will be provided by the NJCEC project. First, what are the local benefits to Howell Township?
Well, indirectly, the benefits of Howell Township will be the rebuilt transmission infrastructure, not only in and through Howell Township, but the other transmission upgrades associated with the NJCEC project that I just mentioned. The transmission upgrades will increase the reliability, resiliency, and the operational flexibility of the 230 kV transmission system, and that system supports the 34.5 kV transmission network that underlies that 230 kV system, which serves the vast majority of customers in New Jersey. That 34.5 kV transmission network then steps down into the distribution voltages go through the neighborhood. So that's the primary reinforcement, is reinforcing the high level and then working down to the lower levels. So in addition, the structures and conductors that we're talking about tonight are nearing the end of their useful life. The existing structures on the right-of-way are quite old, approximately 60 years, a little bit over that, and they need to be replaced soon with newer and more reliable structures and conductors as standards have changed and need to be upgraded. So these structures and conductors need to be replaced to ensure that this area of New Jersey can continue to receive adequate and reliable transmission service.
Thank you. Now, I understand that offshore wind was initially the primary driver for the overall improvements that we have discussed this evening. However, you mentioned there are other benefits provided by the replacement of these structures. In other words, there's ancillary benefits. How does the increased capacity to the overall transmission network in this area provide ancillary benefits to the public?
Well, the improvements will support the transmission system in the area, including Howell Township, but the improvements will benefit other residents and businesses outside of Howell Township as well. The facilitation of offshore wind energy injecting into the grid is one of the benefits, and that this will provide that capability, give a new source of clean energy into the transmission system. But the local benefits and the added capacity to the nearly 22,000 customers is also a benefit. We're going to have that additional capacity available as needed. So the low growth in Howell Township, the surrounding area, will accommodate things like electrification of buildings, electrification of transportation, and increasing the reliability and resiliency of the transmission system. The new transmission lines will allow power to flow in either direction, either from the shore or toward the shore. So as generation dispatch changes, as load increases or decreases across the system, and as transmission elements go into and out of service, the flow on those lines will change, and they'll be able to accommodate that change. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, replacing and upgrading the aged infrastructure is certainly a benefit because the existing infrastructure is nearing the end of its useful life, and JCP&L will optimize the existing right-of-way to facilitate the project. For the reasons I just stated, JCP&L will move forward with these infrastructure improvements due to all of the ancillary public benefits that will serve and benefit both Howell Township and the entire transmission system.
Thank you. And I just have one more question, Mr. Hozempa. You previously mentioned that one of your roles at First Energy is to plan for the future. In other words, you and your team are responsible for researching and determining how First Energy will comply with federal standards to ensure that there's sufficient, reliable transmission of electric energy to central New Jersey in the years to come. How does the increased capacity to the overall transmission network provide a future benefit to the residents and businesses in Howell?
With the NJCEC project, First Energy is preparing and building for the future. The federal standards are changing, and we expect the federal standards will continue to change. We need to be prepared for that change in the future. In addition, the New Jersey businesses and residents, like most states, are using more electricity now than in the past. There's increased use of electric cars, green buildings, etc. These improvements are necessary to ensure we can meet the anticipated greater demand in the future while also complying with the federal reliability standards set by FERC that the utility is required to satisfy.
Thank you, Mr. Hozempa. So that'll conclude our direct testimony for Mr. Hozempa.
Okay, thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, so, Mr. Ozempa, couple of questions. So, when you talked about upgrading the corridor and allow basically the flow of electricity in both directions, so it's not like a water pipe where one side is higher than the other, one side is lower, and water only flows one direction. Electricity, if there's a energy source that comes online somewhere from the west of this, energy could then flow from west to east to serve Larrabee and to serve Howell. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm not really fond of the water pipe analogy with electricity because they are quite different.
Well, or like the power to your house, right? People think power just comes from the street to my house and I'm receiving it, right? This is allowing electricity to flow in two directions, right? From west to east and east to west. It's not necessarily a project that's strictly a result of potential offshore wind project. Is that accurate?
That is correct, because the transmission system, including the 34.5 kV transmission network, it is a network, it's a grid, so it's all interconnected. There's multiple nodes and multiple transmission lines that are all interconnected. So we build the system that way for the reliability, for the additional capacity, so we have resiliency when there's system outages. So if one element goes out of service, we can continue to serve load without dropping customers. Not like in your house, right, where it's a radial system. It leaves your breaker panel, and if that breaker trips, then everything on that circuit's out. So the system does not work that way. It's not a one-way feed. We design the system so power can flow in any direction at any time to meet the system needs.
Yeah, so if there was a source of power that came with some future project in the west part of New Jersey that could then pump power into the grid, it could come from the west and come to the east. It's not just we're getting power from offshore wind and transmitting it to the west part of the state, right? It goes in both directions, and it's a corridor upgrade that serves bidirectionally, right?
That is correct. It is bidirectional, and it'll go from where the generation is sourced to where the load is.
Okay. So, and then you said that the existing infrastructure is nearing its end of its useful life. Like, how long is the end of its useful life? Are we 5 years? Are we 10 years? Or is it like we're already there?
Well, we do annual inspections of all of our facilities, so I don't want you to get the idea that it's ready to fall down today and it's not going to be reliable, because it is. We maintain our facilities, and we can continue to maintain them. The problem is that eventually that maintenance reaches a point where it becomes cost prohibitive. Now, we have not reached that point yet, but this would be a good opportunity for us to take the time, since we have this, this project going on in the area, that we can actually address the needs for that aged infrastructure, if you will, get that rebuilt today, so then it'll last for another 60 or 70 years. So it's not like it's falling down. We do maintain it, we inspect it regularly, we make sure it's going to be reliable, but our system, if you look across the entire electric system, it's been in service for, a lot of it's been in service for 100 years, and so some of these facilities that we're talking about have been up there for 60 plus years.
Yeah, so, and when you say those maintenance costs become cost prohibitive, those maintenance costs and ultimately end up going to the end user a lot of times?
That is correct.
Okay. And now, so regardless of offshore wind or anything like that, if JCP&L were to undertake this project to upgrade the corridor as it stands today without any additional outside power source, could you upgrade the cabling that's on the existing infrastructure as is, or is this a project to upgrade to more modern standards for overhead power lines and transmission lines?
Yeah, it's really a combination of that, because what is out there today we really couldn't upgrade to today's standards, because the standards have changed. The National Electric Safety Code. So in order to do that, we would actually have to rebuild the whole corridor as we have suggested here tonight. So basically tear everything down and rebuild it with all new stuff. That is kind of where we are on this corridor.
So we're completely decommissioning all the lattice type structures, and it's all going to be now monopole, or I guess bipoles over infrastructure?
It'd be monopoles, yes.
Monopole? Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Christine, anything to add?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Sherry? Okay, board members, any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, Mr. Cantor?
Mr. Ozempa, for those of us that are not as well informed, how does the power get from wherever it's generated into my house? And with the understanding that, how does this new system facilitate that?
Well, now that I say I didn't like the water analogy. Now I'm going to use one. Okay. So you think about a big lake. Okay, that lake is energy, and the generators all dump energy into that lake, and the end users, like JCP now, who draws energy to serve its customers, they draw from that lake. So for example, if you lived next to a generator, there's no guarantee that the electrons that generator is making are going to go to your house, even though you're closer, because they all pump into that same lake, and all the load draws from that same lake. What the transmission system does is ensures that lake is adequate and has enough capacity and reliability to get the energy from where it's being pumped or put into the lake to the end users. So because we have a integrated, connected transmission system, and if you think about this, kind of an aside here, the Eastern Interconnection is one big transmission grid that's from the Rocky Mountains to the East Coast, including Canada and the eastern part of the United States. Now, leave Texas out of it, because they're their own little country down there in Texas. They don't connect us. But basically, that whole big system, it's the world's largest machine. That whole Eastern Interconnection is all connected. So a generator in Florida potentially could be serving your home, because those electrons could make it up here. It's all connected. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Mr. Ryan?
Yeah. Mr. Hozempa, the power line for the Clean Energy Corridor, the Larrabee substation and the collector station?
Yes.
Is that the only one that's on that line, or are there other substations?
Well, the Clean Energy Corridor is a series of projects, and primarily the backbone of the Clean Energy Corridor actually runs from East Windsor Substation to Smithburg Substation and connects to Larrabee Substation, and it also connects to Atlantic Substation. So there's 4 substations that are in I would say the backbone of the NJCEC projects. Now there's residual projects outlying from that, like I talked about earlier, so it does stretch beyond that, but that's the main backbone. So think about Larrabee Substation itself. It's a collection. It's basically a big 230 kV switchyard, and I can't remember exactly how many transmission lines are in there, about 8 or 10 230 kV transmission lines actually connect into Larrabee.
Okay. And will the other substations be undergoing overhaul as well with this project?
Yes, they will. Yeah, so Atlantic has a project, Smithburg has a project, and East Windsor has its own project.
Okay, so this is more than just localized here with
Correct.
one substation. Many substations are being affected by
That is
this.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, one quick
Yes.
question. Yeah, if the federal government is disallowing the offshore wind project from going forward, how does that impact this application, if at all?
Well, I think regardless of what happens with offshore wind, we have a need to address on the Jersey Central Transmission System. So we would like to address the aged infrastructure we've talked about and also add that capacity. So with or without the offshore wind, we're going to move forward with this project because we have a need on the system, also planning for the future to make sure that we have the capacity and the reliability to serve the load that is growing in New Jersey. We know with the Energy Master Plan is out there, there's going to be electrification of buildings, electrification of transportation. We also know that there's going to be an increased use of distribution energy resources. In other words, solar and battery energy storage is going to be coming on the system. Well, that also needs transmission to get from where it's being sourced to where the load is. So all that ties together in the need for an improved transmission system. And we'd like to accommodate that. And again, if offshore wind doesn't happen, we still see a need to move forward with this project.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Nobody else? Mr. Nadell, what I'd like to do, will your engineer be around for public comment? Because since we're moving along pretty good, maybe I want to have them stick around and then the public can ask questions to them at that time.
No one's leaving, so
Okay,
we'll have everybody.
that's fine. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and call Mr. Morris, our civil engineer from Boswell Engineering. Just a question. Is Eileen controlling the exhibits on the TV tonight? Oh, you got it.
Charlie has it.
All right, thank you, Charlie. You want your site plan rendering?
Probably the rendering more than the site plan.
Photos, huh?
Yeah, the photos.
Bring up the photos and there should be two of them.
Is there an exhibit number specifically?
Yes, I got the list right here. So it should be US 9 East before and after site photos and Aldrich and US 9 before and after site, 823 and 824.
823 is preferred right now. That's Aldridge, right? No, that's 823, okay, yep. Yeah, we can do that.
Mr. Morris, you've been sworn in. Can you please provide the board with a brief overview of your educational background and work history, please?
Yes, I have a BS in civil engineering from Lehigh University. I've been working at Boswell Engineering for 45 years. Currently run the site civil department for the last 20 years. I'm licensed as a professional land surveyor, professional planner, and professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. Testified in front of over 250 land use boards throughout New Jersey.
Okay, and the license current?
Yes.
Okay. We accept your qualifications. Thank you.
So, Mr. Morris, I know we have the colored photograph in front of us. Can you please provide the board with an overview of the transmission line corridor, along with an overview of the existing infrastructure along the corridor?
Sure. The corridor runs along primarily from Larrabee Substation, primarily along the border of Jackson and Howell, in direction, it's kind of like a southwest direction, then it curves up to the north and heads towards the Smithburg Substation, which is located on Stagecoach Drive 524.
Thank you. And can you please explain the design for the new structures being proposed by this application?
Yes. So if you look at the picture, that is 3/4 of our corridor looks like this, and what we have here are five transmission circuits. I believe 2 are 115 and 3 are 230 kV. So the 3 lattice towers you see, we would be replacing the two on the left with a single, and if you scroll down, with a single monopole structure, which would hold both those circuits. Well, now one of those circuits would be upgraded to a 500 kV circuit, the other stays as a 230 kV circuit. Now, the lattice pole on the right would stay, but would be reinforced with a 230 kV circuit added to it.
Thank you.
So we'd be eliminating two of the lattice structures and replacing with just the one set of monopoles.
Thank you. And for those of us who are not familiar with transmission lines, what are new 500 kV and 230 kV circuits?
It's the voltage involved. Obviously, the higher the voltage, I know Mr. Hosepa hates water-related versions, but voltage is kind of like the slope on a drainage pipe. The steeper the slope, the higher the voltage, the steeper the slope, so the more the wire can handle. So what we have is, by replacing the 230 with a 500, it upgrades that circuit with a much higher capacity to transmit a lot more electricity. And so, and of course, the difference also, though, is the wires themselves, which is one of the reasons we're going with a monopole, is each phase, there's 3 phases on every circuit, and each phase of a 230 circuit is a single conductor. For a 500 kV circuit, you need three for each phase. So it's 3 of the same wires, but it's much heavier, so we need an upgraded pole structure for it.
Thank you. And just to confirm, how many structures are being removed?
There are 67 structures being removed.
And how many new structures will be installed?
There'll be 31 new structures installed, steel structures installed in the right-of-way, 14 steel structures installed on our property, and 6 wood structures installed on our property.
And when you say on our property, you're
The
referring
Larrabee
to
substation, yeah.
Right.
Just to, Ben, just to clarify with that, when you say in the right-of-way, right, so it's the corridor right-of-way, it's not within like a township right-of-way where the
No,
cars are traveling, correct?
and it's funny, because I like to call it the corridor, they like to call it the right-of-way, but yeah, it's the corridor right-of-way.
Okay.
Mr. Morris, why are the new structures made of steel?
Okay, so primarily it's a modernization. They're a stronger structure. They have a much better engineered foundation to them. So they're more durable. They're stronger, and we think they'll last a lot longer.
Thank you. How about the concrete foundations? Why are those being used for the new structures?
The concrete foundation, as for a monopole, is a fairly new. It's probably within the last 20 years. I think it was the advent of it was actually cell towers, and it's a 7 or 8 foot or 9 foot diameter steel reinforced concrete cylinder that goes anywhere from 30 to 50 feet into the ground.
Thank you. And can you confirm that all of the work will occur within JCP&L's existing transmission line corridor? There's no condemnation, no eminent domain required?
None at all.
Thank you. To switch gears over to the Larrabee substation component of the application, can you please describe for the board some of the improvements that will be made to the substation?
Yes, the substation, we're going to be running a new circuit into the substation, so we'll need some new bus work. There's some breakers that have been installed already, but it's primarily bus work and what we call dead-end structures. A dead-end structure is an A-frame which takes the wires from the towers, and they're about 30 or 40 feet high, and they bring it into the substation. So the wires leave the tower, go onto the A-frame, and then come down into the substation.
I'm sorry. What does the substation do?
Was the purpose, and different substations do different things. Larrabee's primary purpose is to take the very high voltage, the 230s, and bring it down to a 34.5 circuit. Now, those 34.5s leave Larrabee and go to the smaller neighborhood substations, which then bring it down to a 13.5, which is the distribution that you get on your poles.
Thank you.
Jeff, I'd like to switch over now to the structure setback summary table that we provided to the board.
Sure.
We'll go ahead and have that brought up on the screen. It's exhibit number 825,
Hey,
please.
hey, Ben, just stay a little closer to the mic.
Sorry,
I can hear you, but I want to make sure the public
is
can.
that better?
Yeah.
All right. If it's not on there, it should be on the site plans. We could pull up the site plan rendering. We have it on our site plan.
What page? Page 4 of 37. There it is.
The exhibit, that's just table information. No, it's on the site, but this is
Mr. Morris, can you please provide an overview for the board as to the setback summary table, which identifies some of the bulk relief that JCP&L is seeking for the new structures?
Sure. What we're looking at, and there's 2 pages to this actually, and this is, each row is a separate structure, which we're proposing. And what it shows is, since our right-of-way is over existing lots, what we did was an analysis of the setbacks for each of existing lot where one of our new towers appears. And then we analyze that as far as the front, side, and rear yard setbacks of that lot to say any potential inconsistencies with your existing zoning.
Thank you. I'm going to switch gears for a moment just to talk about the timeline for construction. Will construction occur at the same time for the transmission line improvements and the substation?
Yes.
And do you know about when construction is slated to start?
We have anticipated construction starting in the fall of 2025.
Thank you. I'd like to touch upon the outside agency approvals required for this project.
Sure.
Would you mind just running through and describing for the board and the board's professionals where JCP&L currently stands with their outside
Yes.
agency approvals?
So we have for the Monmouth County Planning Board, we have where our approval is pending. They've asked us for a couple conditions which we're satisfying. Freehold soil conservation, we got an exemption for the substation because there's no excavation. And for the T-line, we got certification on May 21st. For the Howell Township Fire Bureau, we have a letter of no interest obtained on May 29th. For the Howell Township Environmental Commission, we have a letter of no interest obtained on May 14th. For the Howell Township Shade Tree Commission, we have comments received on April 16th, and our environmentalists will comment on those comments. From the Howell Township Farmers Advisory, we have a letter of no interest obtained on April 24th. And from the NJDEP, we have two permits. One is a flood hazard, and the second is freshwater wetlands. Larrabee Substation does not require freshwater wetlands or flood hazard, but the T-line corridor did, and we have both.
Thank you. And prior to tonight's hearing, you had an opportunity to review the planner technical memo dated July 11th of this year.
Yes.
As well as the T&M Engineering Completeness Review number 2 that's dated May 23rd of this year, revised through July 11th of this year.
That is correct.
And can you please confirm for the record that the applicant will comply with the conditions set forth in both of those review letters?
Absolutely. We have no problem complying with anything on those letters.
Thank you. So that will conclude our direct testimony for Mr. Morris.
Yes, Mr. Moore, so can you just provide for the board's clarity these renderings, how these were prepared? I know the board has seen their share of cell towers where there's photo simulations of like what a cell tower is going to look like. Is this done by the same process?
Yes, the photo simulation of the proposed is just that.
Correct.
It was drawn on, and what we did is we took the cell towers, the existing cell towers, which are to the left, I mean, not cell towers, sorry, lattice towers, which are to the left, we took them out, proposed a new monopoles.
So they tie a balloon to a rope and they go up a certain height and then someone takes a picture and then you superimpose a pole
Yes,
so
yes.
it's to scale and everything like that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's all to scale.
Okay. So, and then from the existing to the proposed, so you're taking 2 lattice poles, eliminating them and consolidating them to 1 monopole. Can you just give us, I know there's a significant number of poles. Obviously, I think we heard there was 60 some odd being eliminated and 31 were proposed.
Yes.
Can you tell us what are the approximate height ranges for the existing lattice poles and then what the new general height ranges are for the monopoles?
Yes. Hold on one second. The existing lattice towers range from 98 feet to 150 feet, 158 feet. And the new monopoles are going to range from 102 feet to 197 feet.
All right, so obviously, it's almost 50 feet higher for the tallest of the tallest poles.
Yes, and that's for the 500 kV line, and the reason for that is you need more separation on your wires for the higher voltage.
Okay. So, and I see from the rendering, from the existing to the proposed, so it appears that the new monopole is not being like relocated in the same area or the same footprint as where the existing pole is closest to the extent of the corridor? Is it being located more centrally into the corridor? Can you?
We're moving them, for lack of anything else, we're moving them right in between the 2 lattice towers.
Correct, so it's not like we're taking a 150-foot pole that's, 150 feet from the edge of the corridor and going up another 50 feet. We're moving
No,
it.
we're moving it in about 50 feet.
Okay. All right. And then as far as the height of the poles, so I think we've seen it with some cell towers. It comes up with like FAA approvals regarding the height of the poles. Are you above any threshold, under any threshold that would trigger FAA?
We purposely kept them under 200 feet.
Okay. And then I think this is a first for this board, but we've seen a couple cell towers, and that might be a little bit different from how these types of monopoles are designed. But for the cell towers, they usually are designed to buckle like half the height, so you don't really have like a fall radius per se. Can you tell if the poles or the cables were to fail, how are they designed to fail a certain way in a certain direction?
Well, because all the tension on the poles is in a straight line, the failure would be along that line. They wouldn't go sideways. They'd go along where the power lines are.
Gotcha. So it's if you had a string attached to a pole on either side and you were pulling from each side, if I let go of one side, it's going to fall.
It's going the other way. Yeah.
All right. As far as the work itself, right? So there's work in the corridor to actually temporary disturbance for laydown areas to actually be able to bring the infrastructure, install the new infrastructure, take the old infrastructure. At the time that the new monopoles are installed and the old ones, the lattices are taken out, all that temporary disturbance is going to be revegetated and brought back to a natural condition?
Yes. What I'll do is I'll just give you a brief explanation. We lay down wood mats around the area. We would take down the existing poles first in pieces, cut the foundations down 1 foot below, and then a second crew would come later and drill the footings, put the anchor bolt cages in, pour the concrete footings, and then set the monopoles up. So it would be one crew following another crew, and the last crew would be running wires.
I think there was a substantial DGA pad area that was within the corridor. Our concern would be if that were to be staying, we don't want to just see this stuff staying there in long term and then it gets to start being utilized for other purposes other than the intended.
I'll cut you off. We are required to remove all the DGA and all the wood matting within 6 months after we're completed with the project.
Okay. And I believe this came up in the Monmouth County Planning Board's review also, but there are some of the runs that do span across township or county right-of-way, Route
Yeah.
9, Aldrich Road, Lakewood Farmingdale Road.
Yes.
Is there any like temporary safety measures that are like installed to protect the public right-of-way if something were to fall? You know, I know construction in the city, they've got like the,
Yes.
you know, the umbrellas and all that kind of stuff.
They typically, and we also have to cross 195.
True.
But, yeah, typically what we do, well, on 195, we do, the state police do slowdowns for us, so we can run the wires while there's no cars underneath them. During the county roads, we probably shut them while we're running the wires across them. Plus, we have supports on either side, so if the wire falls, it won't fall on the road. But typically, while the wire is being run, the road will be shut for that hour or whatever it is.
Okay. And then as far as like general, so it's weird because this isn't like a convenience store where you're operating 7 days a week and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the actual impact as far as like noise and traffic is going to be associated with the construction component of this. Can you talk about like what the typical times, days of the week, and construction hours?
They'd be normal construction hours, probably 7 to 3 or 4 in the afternoon, unless we were under tight timelines, but 7 to 3 or 4 in the afternoon would probably be the most prominent construction.
And then Monday through Friday typically, right?
Typically Monday through Friday. As I said, if we come down to deadlines, we might have to run on Saturdays also.
Okay. And then, so we heard about there's the corridor improvements and then there's the substation improvements. So can you just walk us through a little bit more for the substation component of it? What part of the improvements are strictly associated with the corridor upgrades? And is there anything proposed with the substation that is only required if offshore wind is a project that were to come in the future?
I want to bring this up on the TV here.
I don't know if we have to bring it up. We, everything associated with the substation is for the corridor improvement. If we had to change things, obviously if offshore wind didn't happen, we may have to do some other improvements to the substation. But everything before you right now is just for the corridor improvements.
So just to confirm, what you're proposing for the substation is just for the corridor improvements, and if offshore wind were to come, you might need to do additional?
No.
No.
Because we're not really connecting in, we are and we're not. It's a complicated issue, but we're adding a circuit into the substation, which is part of the corridor. Now, you'll hear later tonight how the other project will work into our corridor, but the Larrabee substation is not involved in that. It's just very close.
I need you just to clarify for the record that there is some infrastructure that's connecting to.
Oh, there is? Okay. Yeah, we do show,
The 85-foot tall dead end.
yeah, okay, I'm sorry. We do show one dead-end structure that does connect to the Mayotte substation.
Okay, will that be constructed regardless of
Yes.
the offshore wind?
Yes.
Why?
Just because it's part of the substation improvements and we have to do it. It's not just Mayotte, but it's part of this project.
Will it be utilized if offshore wind doesn't come to the site?
I can't tell you that. That would be substation engineering would have to plan that.
We'd have to recall Mr. Hozempa to answer that question.
Okay, if we could do
Which
that.
we can do.
Yeah, thank you.
And before you jump off that, so there's, and we put it in our letter, we questioned, I think there's 6 wooden utility or timber utility poles?
Yeah, there's 6 riser poles which are picking up underground 34.5 circuits and bringing them into the substation. So we're bringing them from underground up into the air and then into the substation.
All right, and then can you tell us what the height of those are relative to like, say, a timber pole that runs utility along the public right-of-way?
Well, it depends on the timber pole. If it's a 34.5 pole, it's probably 60 to 70 feet. These poles are 60. These 6 poles are 60. What you see on public right-of-ways, and you see more of them now, is when they're running 34.5 circuits down public right-of-ways, you see 70-foot poles. Your typical pole for just a distribution line is probably closer to 35 or 40 feet.
Okay. And then I think in our review letter, and it's what I'm showing on the screen here, we had questioned, there was this large green area of trees that's proposed to be cleared and removed.
Yes.
And it didn't seem like there was any, other than the one pole here, it didn't seem like there was improvements proposed within
But
that. Can you explain?
There are above-ground lines coming through there.
Okay.
And
So,
all FERC requirements are you can't have anything growing more than 5 feet under a transmission line. So any trees that are there would have to be cleared.
so the existing vegetation is 60, 70 feet tall, or is it?
I don't recall the height of it. If you looked at the overall picture of the Larrabee substation, it really doesn't have an effect on any buffering. But it's approximately, I believe it's 2.5 acres of clearing. That was it, right? Correct. Yeah.
Ms. Jones, our next witness, is going to touch upon that as well.
Okay, yeah, I think from the board's perspective, and I know the shade tree had a memo on, I'm sure Sherry has an opinion on it as well, like clearing trees just for the sake of clearing trees, I
Yeah.
don't think serves any kind of benefit, so we want to have a proper justification on it.
We wouldn't want to pay to clear trees that we didn't have to clear.
So you're saying it's a FERC requirement? Is that real?
Yeah,
Does BPU have any, like, authority or control over, did they approve this design as well, or?
Well,
Or how does that work?
First Energy Vegetation approves every single above-ground line that First Energy puts in. And vegetation management has a set of rules which are dictated to them by the feds. And those rules are you can't have a tree under a transmission line. Because of eventual growth of the tree. So yeah, if those trees are 50, 60 foot high, the bottom of the transmission lines are only 50 feet high, so you don't have the clearance.
I think that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I don't know if this is in your line, this question, but the increase in wattage and voltage going through these big lines, is that going to have any health issues for people living close with properties buffering this corridor?
That is out of my
Yeah.
pay grade.
Is there anybody that could at least give us an idea?
We can recall Mr. Hozepa.
Okay,
at that
because I think that is one thing I do want to make sure we have it on record. The other thing is the construction of the substation will be not substantially, because you're only saying if you do the land clearing, it's only going to be 2.5 acres. So
Correct.
you don't anticipate like dump trucks for a long period of time going in and out?
There's very little soil, there's basically no soil movement.
Okay, so most of the trees would then be grinded up?
Yeah, they'd
on-
be ground up, and that would
okay.
be it. And yeah, there's no soil movement, there's no soil erosion, because there's no soil disturbance in that area. And all the actual substation improvements take place inside the fence of the substation,
Okay.
except for the poles on the outside.
One thing our engineers touched on, and I think this board is very much concerned that there's not going to be any, because we're dealing with another potential project going on here. I just don't want to see land cleared and then it just sits, because in 4 years, the government continues to not do anything with the offshore, and we're stuck with empty. So your clearing is only going to be for what you need to do?
Correct, and it's
Okay.
going to be done.
Okay.
So we're going to, whatever we show on these plans is going to be constructed.
Okay.
So we're not going to clear things and leave it raw.
Yeah, Mr. Morse, so regarding the substation, so I'm going to just toggle between the two plan sheets here. So the first one here is coming from the west, Lakewood Farmdale Road is on the left-hand side of the road. So you've got some poles on the lower right-hand corner, that's coming from the transmission corridor?
Yes.
And then the poles that are on the northern part of the property, where do those go to and come from?
Those that go to underground 34.5 lines, which are also transmission, but they're much lower voltage transmission.
So 34.5 that runs within the same transmission corridor as the overhead lines, or is this?
No, well, some of it does. There's two circuits that run in our corridor, but most of it goes on the streets primarily.
Okay. So it runs underground in the public right away?
Underground, then it surfaces as it gets onto the street.
Okay.
And, the only reason it's underground right now, so it doesn't interfere with the overhead lines.
Gotcha. So, and then I'm going to go to the next page, which is just a continuation to the east side. So I see where the transmission corridor improvements come into the substation here where
Yes.
I have my cursor. On the north end of the picture, these lines that you're talking about that go to the public right away, the roadway,
Yes.
right? And those have a line that goes a direct connection over to an adjoining Mayod property.
Yes.
So can you tell me the difference between these series of lines and what is solely just for the substation property and what is a connection to the Mayod property to the east?
Well,
And what's the purpose of each?
The one cable goes to the Mayod property, which is, I believe that's their electrical service. I believe that's, Larry would have to answer that.
We'll have Mr. Hozepa
Yeah.
clarify that.
Okay.
I think, kind of just to add to Mr. Merton's comment, you agreed that you would comply with all of the conditions of our letter. We have a condition that no clearing will take place on site until such time that construction will begin. Will you agree to comply with that?
Well, to a point, yes. Not one day before construction, we have to clear. And our environmental consultant will further testify to that there are certain restrictions on when we can clear, so.
Understood. Our condition also says that the applicant should be required to post a reforestation bond in the event clearing takes place but development does not occur.
Not a problem.
Great, thank you.
Okay, board members, any questions?
Mr. Morris, compared to the old lattice poles, do the new monopoles require less or more maintenance, future maintenance, or is it about the same?
I'd say the same, just because some people from First Energy would kill me if I said less. I think it is less, because they're a galvanized steel pole, and they're not, lattice, but I would say the same.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Barilla?
Yeah, just going off of John's, which brought something to my mind. The new poles, the steel mono poles, are they more susceptible to wind damage than the lattice?
No, I think they're less, because they're actually designed to a higher standard than those lattice poles were designed to. Ever since Sandy, just so you know, this is just a sizing, I just happen to know this, ever since Sandy, the wind standards for New Jersey were increased.
The only reason why I bring that up, and I'll have to find it, but I did read something that those monopoles are more susceptible to wind pressure than the lattice, because the lattice is all open, and the wind kind of just goes through the lattice.
Yeah,
Whereas
but
the wind pressure.
much thinner steel and actually there's more steel in the lattice. So it is open, but I would not say it. And if it's more susceptible to wind pressure, the strength of the monopole makes it.
And what is it rated for? Well, how much wind?
They have to correct me, but I believe it's 110 miles per hour.
110 miles an hour. And what would the lattice?
I don't know what
Wind
they were
be-
designed for. There was actually those designs were from 1958. I don't know what those.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, right, so their structures, right, they would be subject to needing any township municipal building permits for as far as foundations and things like that?
Yes.
Correct, all right. So at that time, they'd have to provide engineered calculations showing what wind speed, and then building department will review to make sure that it's in accordance with all applicable codes and everything like that. And if it's not, then it has to be, right? I mean, that's an outside agency approval, but we don't grant relief from those conditions. That's something that's, you got to comply with the building.
Okay. Also, if you don't mind, if we can just go over just something, so I have a better idea of your handout here. Can we look at page 5 on your handout?
Would you mind pulling up page 5 of the site plan?
Oh, the site plan, okay. Sorry.
don't know if there's a
Is this
typo
the right
on
sheet?
Site
here.
Plan 1,
Site Plan 1, is it?
yeah. From the handout, Site Plan 1?
Site Plan 1. Yeah. That's the one.
Okay.
Okay, so the X's are what is there now, the lattice towers. is that
Those are the lattice towers that are being removed.
correct? So those 5 are being removed
Yes,
and replaced with 2 of the steel monopole.
yes.
Okay, so you got 67 being removed, so, let me go back. Are all the lattice being removed?
No.
No, the row stays on.
The one circuit on the, as when we showed the rendering, the one circuit on what I call the right side is remaining, and actually it's going to receive a circuit on it. So there's 3 lattice poles in a row, and the one is going to remain.
Well,
That's going to be
I'm-
reinforced. It's going to be reinforced, and the circuit's going to be added to it.
Okay, if we could just stick to this page. So this says existing lattice tower to be removed.
Yeah.
Typical of 1 on this page.
Correct.
So does that mean, so
So
it's
that lattice
not
tower is
that
gonna be removed
one,
and
so
replaced.
all 5 are being removed
Yes.
on this
On that page, all
particular?
5 of those lattice towers are being removed.
Okay. And as far as the,
Refers to sheet 4.
somebody's setback infringements, I guess we'll call them, are these numbers on your chart, are these are existing numbers as far as, we'll pick one. I can't see this, see on my own. Let's go to the ARE2 section of the structure setback summary.
Oh, setbacks on it, okay.
Yeah, the structure setback summary. So zone AR2,
ARE2?
ARE2.
Yes.
Let's go down to, what is that, structure ID, is that 20D2004? Second, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Okay,
6.
yes.
That one, okay. So, as far as the setback, so the front yard setback is 11, you're set at 11 feet on that one,
Yes.
and we are supposed to be at 50. No, yeah, 50, right?
The front, yes, 50.
All right, so 27 for the rear, 50, so all those need relief.
Yeah, the
right?
only relief
So those
now-
are current conditions
Those are, well, the...
with the lattice towers
No,
that are there.
that's the proposed, these are the new towers. Now, what I'm saying is those setbacks are from the lot lines that are underneath our right-of-way corridor. So our right-of-way corridor is superimposed on top of individual lots. So it gets a little confusing because
It's a lot confusing.
we're inside our
Charlie, give
corridor.
us some clarity then.
Yes.
Make it less confusing.
We were asked to do it this way, and this is how we provide it. 'Cause our right-of-way corridor goes over, I believe it's 50 or 60 individual lots. So those individual lot lines are still there, but they're owned by somebody, but our right-of-way corridor overlays them. So what we did was our setbacks are to those individual lots that are underneath our corridor.
Yeah, and just to give the board some clarity, right, so this corridor runs along the Howell-Jackson Township border, and the Howell-Jackson Township border and the Howell-Lakewood Township border is basically the Matitaconk River, right? So like, you know, these lots are very uniquely shaped, and to be honest with you, I think the table they have here, front, rear, and side yard setbacks, a lot of these don't actually even have technical frontage on a right-of-way. So like, whether these are really a front yard setback and whether a variance is or is not required, this was asked to be provided as a tool to try to give the board some context of like where these are in proximity to the.
It actually confused the hell out of me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it would probably be better if like you go to the plan for that specific structure and you see that relative to the existing lattice poles, and you can see that it's probably located further away from the property line. It may be taller, but it's being located probably further away from the property line. It's really also a tool, because, should this board act favorably, they're going to have to go to the zoning office and get a zoning permit for each one of these poles. So it's just to try to help them out when they fill out a zoning permit on like, here's a plan and here's our setback, to try to make the process easier and smoother for everyone, so we're not all going in circles, kind of thing. Two questions that I want to also ask Mr. Morrison. He may not have the answer, it might be for Mr. Hozempa, but the poles themselves and the existing lattice or the proposed monopoles, is there any ground infrastructure associated with those other than the concrete footings? Is there any electrical equipment at grade other than what's being proposed in the substation?
No, except for grounding, and that's right with the foundation.
Yeah, so it's like the grounding for your house, right?
Yes.
It's, okay. And then
Yeah,
as
it's a little
far,
bigger than that, though.
yeah. So is that encapsulated or included in the concrete foundation?
Yes.
Or is it, okay.
Yes.
And then the second thing would be, and we see it on the cell towers, right? Co-location of other infrastructure, cell infrastructure. Is there any planned cell infrastructure for any of these poles at this time? All right, would the applicant, if the board were to act favorably, agree to a condition that should that be proposed in the future, they would come back to the board to seek approval for same?
Have to ask the applicant that one. Or they come back to the board, you mean?
Yeah,
I think that's, Ben?
it's an applicant question, but,
Yeah. I thought you were saying agree to never do it.
no, I mean,
I thought the answer was yes, it is yes. We'll
Yeah.
return
I
to the
mean,
board for
every applicant has a right to come to the board and present an application. It's just, we want to get it on the record that that's not part of this application. If they
Right.
wanted to do it, they'd have to come to the board and make application for same.
Yeah, it'll be a site plan because any cell service has ground units also associated with it, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Charlie. Sherry, did you need anything to add regarding shade tree with the trees or anything?
So since there is 2+ acres of clearing, I'm not 100% sure if this type of use will not require the replacement fees because.
Is your mic on?
It is, yeah. How about now?
Much better.
Okay. If this type of use, because it's a public, use, if they have to pay into the tree fund, I'm not 100% sure on that. A lot of the utilities are exempt from fees. However, if it is determined that fees will be required, 2 acres is roughly the $90,000 of clearing in tree fees.
And we're going to have Ms. Jones discuss that shortly, but the answer is
Okay.
yes, we will comply with the ordinance.
Okay, you didn't mention my letter before, I'm assuming you did receive it?
And Ms. Jones is going to.
She's doing that one? Okay, no problem. Okay, I'll wait for her.
Okay.
Thanks.
I do have another question. You said 67 lattice towers are being removed. How many are remaining lattice? And why are they remaining if we're,
The answer, well, let me find out
Okay,
the number
230s.
first. The answer to the second part of your question is, they are not, first of all, they're newer, so they're not as aged, and.
okay, that's what I was getting
And
at.
we
So
can-
so those lattices are newer, so they're not
Yeah,
coming
they're
towards
newer,
there.
so they're not, and we can only go so far with this application.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just another question. With regard to the variances or the setbacks on each of these towers,
Are they required to notify the neighbors of each of these?
We've notified the neighbors of.
I saw the list, there's dozens and dozens of houses. So all those people are notified?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
just out of an abundance of caution, we noticed within 200 feet of every direction of the entire right-of-way. It was a gruesome process. I think it was a total of 450. So this was a major notice.
That's
but
what
we wanted to make sure everybody was notified of the project. So
Okay, thank you.
And the adjoining municipalities that abut this would also have been noticed.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks.
In Mr. Cunliffe's letter, he addressed the issue of the fencing around the Larrabee substation.
Yes.
Before we get to his question whether or not we could change that, what is the actual guideline for that type of substation based on the NERC?
So The guideline that First Energy goes by is an 8-foot chain link fence with a foot of 3 strands of barbed wire on top. There's movement towards a more secure fence, but that's what we go by right now.
Okay. And is that what's currently there, or is that
I
need to be
believe that's
upgraded?
what's currently there.
That is currently there? Because I know the upgrade came out from NRC in 2019, and if everything is older, just curious if we're currently there, or do we need to modify to be
As I said,
consistent?
we are, in the footprint, we are modifying it to the more secure fence, which is, quite frankly, a little ugly, but we are slowly modifying to that fence.
No, and I'm asking on, we want the grid to be intact.
Correct.
We don't want to compromise, so we want to keep people out of
Yes.
that sensitive area. Is there going to be any type of access control going into the facility?
None more than there is right now.
Okay.
The beauty of most of our major substations is most people don't even know they're there.
And it was previously testified that gets about one inspection a year? Or is that going to be maintained, or will the vulnerabilities of a larger facility now up that?
Let's have Mr. Hozempa answer that when he
Okay,
comes
that's
back
fine.
up.
That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Morris, to follow up that, so can you just provide clarity for the rest of the board about what type of fencing exists, what's proposed, what the security measures are, and what, is it specifically required by code, or are there other alternative, let's say, softer anti-climbing measures? We've seen for the cell tower sometimes, or solar facilities, they can do like the top of the fence that has like a curl on it, or like, if it's chain link fence, like a tighter mesh that makes it more difficult for, people to get a shoe in to climb the fence. Is the
Yes.
barbed wire specifically required by a specific code?
The barbed wire is the First Energy standard. I'll tell you that. And that is part of the old electric code. There have been upgrades to it, and there are alternatives, but First Energy, and as I said, most of our substations are in areas where you can't see them. That's,
What are some of the alternatives?
the new type of fence is it almost looks like a solid piece of metal around your substation. It has little tiny holes about this big. And a lot of that still has barbed wire on top of it.
So it's a chain link
It's not really
mesh.
even a chain link, it's different. We call it the high security fence.
Yeah, so what's different? Is it a different
Yeah.
material? Is it?
Yeah, it's almost like it's metal plates that are about 3/4 of an inch wide in a chain link pattern.
Okay. Now, that in itself, without barbed wire, would that be compliant with the current code?
I'm not sure. Mr.
Okay.
Hozempa might be able to answer that, but typically we even put barbed wire on that.
Yeah, I think maybe we want to hear exactly what the answer to that is.
Yeah, I agree. That's, just because we don't see the substations doesn't mean there could be an issue down the road. Somebody
that's-
finding, yeah, so that's,
Well, it's interesting
Yeah.
because we go to a lot of towns and they say we don't allow barbed wire. And one of the reasons we put it there is not only protect our substations from people, but protect people from our substations.
yeah, totally agree. So I just want to, like Charlie said, we need to have that on record. Okay? At this time, I think we will take a brief recess for like 5-10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eileen?
The board will now take a 5-minute break and reconvene at 8:35 PM. The meeting will now reconvene.
Okay, we're going to recall your prior witness.
Yes, so Mr. Hozempa, for the record, has been recalled. So during the break, we were able to actually review the fence question. I'm going to allow Mr. Hozempa to explain. It sounds like we actually already have the enhanced fence.
Yes, at Larrabee Substation, the no-cut, no-climb fence was installed several years ago, so it's already in place.
Okay,
So does that include barbed wire?
It does have barbed wire, yes.
Is that needed per the current code, or would just the upgraded fence without the barbed wire, would that still service? I guess, I get that's JCP&L First Energy standard, but is it like a national standard? Like, is it required by some specific code?
I do not know what the code requirements are.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's up to the board what your feeling on it is. I think anytime we see any kind of use or an application with a fence, we try to make it a little bit more like aesthetically easy on the eyes, kind of thing. I get the need for the security, but like was kind of hoping to see, you know, if that it was specifically required for a specific code or something
Yeah,
like that.
I tend to agree with that. So is that something we can maybe look into?
We'll have one of our substation engineers in the back confirm if it's
Okay.
part of the NESC code.
Okay. Also, I had addressed a safety issue with the additional wattage. Can you address that as well?
Yeah, when we construct our transmission facilities, we construct them to meet National Electric Safety Code requirements as well as any local requirements that are in place. We do regular inspections of all of our transmission facilities. So, we have transmission lines all across our footprint that are maintained, and we maintain the health and safety of our public as well as our employees by the way that we design our facilities.
Okay, but my question is are you stating that you're going to follow the safety codes, but isn't there an increased potential for some issues with this extra wattage?
Even with the 500 kV
Yeah.
line itself, it's a higher voltage, yes, but in addition, we're also taking one of the 230 kV lines out of that same corridor. So we're replacing a 230 kV line with a 500 kV line. So, and again, because we're having an increased height because of the 500 kV voltage, the increased spacing as was talked about, we're moving that structure closer to the center of the right-of-way. I mean, health and safety will be maintained.
Okay.
Is there a benefit to putting it up higher? It's going to be the tower's a little higher. Is there does it prevent the voltage, I guess for lack of better words, from reaching the ground if it's up higher?
Well, certainly there's a safety aspect to distance, which is why we build our lines the way we do. So yes, higher is better.
Okay.
And just to go back to the fence, not to beat it into the ground, but, so, you said it's already been replaced. Did you get township permits to replace the fence when that was done? Or any kind of approvals for it?
I'm not sure if we have that information tonight.
Okay, so I would say, if you didn't, then the applicant would retroactively need to get any permits that may be required by the town unless they're precluded from some BPU provision or something like that. And then as far as the fence itself, was it a 6-foot-high fence that was replaced with a 6-foot-high fence? Was it a 6-foot replaced with an 8-foot? Was it an 8-foot for an 8-foot? I think that would just be important too.
I think our guys are going to have to look into that, right? You don't know the answer to that.
I believe it's an 8-foot fence now. I don't know what was there before, so I can't answer that question.
All right. Well, I think we want to
Yeah,
answer on that.
we're going to need, yeah, absolutely.
And then I think one of the last things that we kind of brought you back up here for was everything at the northeast corner on the northerly property line. So can you just give us clarity on what specific lines service the MAOD use to the east, and what specific lines are just solely for the purposes of the substation?
Well, basically, all the facilities on there are existing and are for the lower voltage facilities, the 34.5 kV and the 12 kV, getting in and out of the substation. There's one line that goes directly east to the boundary, the property boundary, and that will be a communication cable between the Larrabee substation and the Larrabee collector station.
So that's just communication, that doesn't carry any power from the Larrabee substation that's proposed on the neighboring property?
Correct. It's just a communication cable.
So of what's being shown right here, none of these are interconnection power lines from the property to the east to the substation property?
Correct.
So there's no proposed improvements to the substation that are just for that MOAD site?
So I guess the question is, right, so we're saying this is happening regardless of what happens on the property to the east. Can the the communication line, can that be constructed at a later date as a separate improvement and a separate application for this property?
Well, the
Is-
communication line really needs to have the other end, right? That's only the JCP&L part of the communication line.
Right, so that can't be constructed unless the neighboring project is constructed.
Correct. It would go nowhere, right? So it could
So
be
it's just gonna
constructed.
dent it in a junction box underground or something like that, right?
Yeah, well, probably just conduit would be put in.
Just conduit right
Yeah,
now?
and then it's a fiber cable would not be run until there's a place to take the fiber cable to.
Okay. Thank you.
And there's nothing else on this site that will connect to the neighboring site.
Is there anything else? That's inside the fence. Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah, there's a structure inside the substation fence that will be used as a connecting point to the line from the Mayotte property.
Does that structure exist today?
I don't believe so.
All right. Will it be constructed if the project on the neighboring site doesn't happen?
Well, our intention is to build everything that we have on our site plan today, including that structure, that was the contract that we have with the BPU. So we are going to build the facilities we're under contract to build.
So which specific structure, can you direct us on the site plan, which one that is?
What page is this?
It's page 28 of 37.
Page 28 of 37.
Sorry, maybe I just page number.
28.
Oh, 28 of 37, sorry.
Okay.
Down toward the bottom. Yeah, that one right there, where the arrow goes, yeah.
So just this right here, or all this other stuff?
No, just the dead end structure itself. All the bus work's already there.
Your testimony earlier was that regardless of the status of the offshore wind project, you're constructing these improvements for resiliency, reliability. What will be the purpose of that structure if the wind project does not go forward?
Well,
This.
as a transmission planner, me and my team, we're always looking for opportunities to add additional improvements to the system. So if that structure was there and we could utilize that for transmission planning improvements, and I have concepts in my mind that what I would do with that, but if we build that structure and it does not get used for offshore wind, me and my team will use that for additional transmission expansion.
So over on the west end of the corridor, right? Like, did we build this type of structure for some nuclear power plant that doesn't exist or some coal plant that doesn't exist?
I don't think I understand what you're asking.
So we're building something for something that hasn't been improved or that doesn't exist, right? I'm asking you on the far end of the corridor, did we build some similar type of structure to reduce power from a source that doesn't exist or that hasn't been approved?
Your question is, did we build something that we didn't use? I would say no.
That wasn't my question. I think you're just,
What kind of
Yeah,
structure is it? Like what are we
Yeah.
talking about? High tower, building?
I think it's just a steel dead-end structure.
What does that do? I guess we're just not sure what is.
Well, it's basically where it takes the tension from the conductors coming from outside the substation to inside the substation fence, so that provides the tension, so then we can swing from there into the substation bus.
So it's a box?
No, it's just
building?
I think it's two steel poles with cross members.
Okay.
Did he say that?
Did you want to add something to that?
I want to just clarify for the record that, as you heard from Mr. Hozempa, First Energy has an agreement with the state of New Jersey to build the infrastructure that's before you this evening on the site plan. If that were to change in the future, First Energy and JCP&L would agree to return to this board for an amended site plan approval if these improvements were not going to be built the way they're being depicted on the site plan this evening.
Who's the contract with? You say the state of New Jersey, you mean BPU or somebody else, or like another entity, or who's the contract with? Has that been supplied to the board?
With the BPU and PJM.
Is it part of a BPU order or something, or, I mean, do they approve, I don't know, how would they approve that, if you know?
It was part of the state agreement approach that I talked about earlier in my testimony, where the BPU approached PJM and they went through this bidding process, and then the contract was awarded. It was then filed at FERC.
So you're saying that structure that we were just talking about, you're contractually obligated First Energy to build it now? If you were to not, if the board were to ask you to not construct that now, would you be in violation of the contract with PJM?
We have certain milestones we have to achieve based on that contract. I don't know exactly where that falls into those milestones. I can't answer that question.
I think that's something maybe that the board wants to know, whether or not, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of pieces, a lot of steps in the path, so to speak. So it sounds like we need to maybe see these paths or have something to show us what those paths are, so we can have a better grasp of what this whole concept ultimately is gonna look like. There's just too many holes,
Yeah.
and, you know, that's just, it's confusing, because there's a lot of different things going around and nothing's concrete.
and I'll just add to that, right? So I don't think this is something that's atypical for the board, right? If we were to get a use with some space that says like flex space, right? And we're like, all right, well, what exactly is going to go in there? Oh, we don't know what's going to go in the future. You're here for a use variance, right? So like, we want some clarity on whether that's going to be like, oh, well, if it doesn't need to be built for the off-wind, then we're going to use it for something else. Well, what else are you going to use it for? And, you know, I think we're not asking questions that are out of character.
No, I
for
don't
how
think
this
so
board-
either.
I think does BPU regulate what you can use that for if you don't use it for wind? I guess is a question. I don't know how to ask that question because I'm not in your shoes, but are there things that BPU requires with these various structures as part of the agreement? And if it doesn't come to pass, what are they expecting you to use it for? I know you mentioned about using it for additional conduits or whatever, but is there something in writing stating that BPU says you need to use it for this, or whatever, whatever the consequence or whatever the option is? Is there something in writing with that?
Well, the existing contract or the designated entity agreement, which we signed with PGM and the Board of Public Utilities, that has all this information in it about when things need to be in service and what particular elements at a very high level need to be constructed. They don't have the detail of specifically this particular structure, but this project that structure is connected to, that is in the designated entity agreement. So this particular structure is also going to provide construction power to MAOD as well. So that will need to be constructed for them to have power on their site to do the construction work and the testing of their facilities.
Your infrastructure upgrading of all those towers, is that going to happen regardless of MOAD? What happens with that application? You're saying your towers are nearing end of life. Are those towers going to be replaced no matter what happens with that wind development?
With offshore wind, yes, we're going to go on with those upgrades on that transmission corridor, that is correct.
And that has nothing to do with the wind development or potential wind development?
Well, I would say it has a lot to do with it, because that was the primary driver behind this whole project. But now that we have this project in motion and have done all the things that we've developed, you know, we've identified the need to replace these structures because of their age. And so we are going to continue on with the project regardless of what happens with the offshore wind, because we want to replace those structures and upgrade that corridor. So that is a viable project to us. We think it adds a lot to the transmission system, so we're going to continue to invest in that regardless of offshore wind. But that was the primary driver why we developed this project. That's the only distinction I want to make on that.
And Mr. Hozempa, just to clarify, construction in other municipalities, not Howell, is slated to start later this year.
That is correct.
Thank you.
What type of projects? What do you?
The right-of-way goes through 14
Oh, okay,
municipalities,
that's what you're talking, okay.
including Howell, of course.
Yes.
So, but construction is slated, as you just heard from Mr. Hozempa, later this summer in some municipalities. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, just to ask a clarifying question to that. So you're telling me, like, it's been approved in the other towns, the project's gonna move forward, and it's gonna construct all the new poles, and then we're just, say, Hal doesn't act on the application, or it doesn't get approved, or it takes longer than what you anticipate, what happens to that middle part? Like, we just put up poles and we're connecting to old lines, or what happens?
I can't speak for First Energy as to how they would handle a fact pattern like that. Of course, we're asking Howell Township to approve the CEC project as we've asked 14 other municipalities. But I'd have to speak with First Energy about that.
Now, will they be approved by the other towns as the corridor, or did they have substations involved with that, those approvals?
Some of the municipalities had substations as well.
Okay.
Well, wait,
I think
two
that-
of them, right?
Yeah, the testimony was there's 4 substations in total, correct?
4 substations related to the backbone of this project, okay, which is going from East Windsor substation to Smithburg substation to Larrabee substation and the Atlantic substation. Those 4, that's kind of the backbone. But there's other substations that also need upgrades, as well as other transmission corridors that need upgrades beyond this local area. They're further out than that. We're doing work at Raritan River substation, for example. You know, that's kind of far removed from here, but there's work being done in that substation as well.
But the 13 towns you just spoke of along the line, how many substations are there?
East Windsor has a substation, Freehold has a substation, Colts Neck has a substation, and of course, Howell's the 4th.
So 4. Thank you.
Okay. We may put a pin in this a little bit, but I do want to get the other testimony in so we can proceed, and I may like to try to get some public comment in before we cut out for the night. So you want to call your next witness?
Cover all 4 of those topics. Well, the tree clearing. Then we'll talk about the general. Okay.
So we'll call Ms. Jones, the environmental consultant.
Are you okay addressing? I don't know, Larry.
I don't think we're gonna, if it comes up.
Ms. Jones was previously sworn. Ms. Jones, can you please provide the board with your educational background and credentials, please?
Sure, good evening. My name's Amy Jones. I'm a senior biologist and project manager with Du Bois and Associates, and we've been assisting JCP&L with their environmental permitting. I have a Bachelor of Science Bachelor of Science in Ecology from Juniata College. I have continuing professional education courses from Rutgers University, Stockton University, and Shepherd College. I've been in environmental consulting for about 23 years, and prior to that, I was a wildlife biologist with the Fish and Wildlife Service. I have a professional wetland scientist certification from the Society of Professional Wetland Scientists, as well as other biological certifications. I've testified before many planning boards and zoning boards, as well as environmental commissions.
Okay, we accept your qualifications. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
What's her expertise?
Ms. Jones, I know the CEC project has unique environmental permitting. Could you please explain the various environmental permitting required for the NJCEC project?
Sure. The transmission line project does have associated disturbances to wetlands, transition areas, flood hazard areas, and riparian zones. Based on this, our office coordinated with JCP&L and their team to submit a freshwater wetland general permit number 21. That was approved on June 3rd, 2025. We obtained a flood hazard individual permit on November 12th. And also a subsequent individual permit, minor modification. There was one shift to a structure. That was issued on June 5th, as well as JCP&L has a DEP blanket permit. That was actually recently reissued on May 1st. That blanket permit authorizes all of their temporary disturbance for access, so that is also applicable to this project. So to summarize, this project does have all NJDEP permits in place and issued.
Thank you. And we received CME's tree expert memo, which was dated June 26th of this year. Could you please just take us through some of the comments and confirm the applicant will comply with the conditions in this review memo?
Sure. Yes, this was received and reviewed. The letter does reference the two sort of waiver requests, and that's associated with planting requirements for the woodland management plan and other perimeter buffers. As discussed in our summaries, planting on the substation and the transmission corridor is not feasible or practical. So based on this, the letter goes through a few conditions. The JCP&L will comply with adding tree protection fencing to the plan and the project, and will include that on the plans as well as a detail of that fencing, so that will be complied with. As applicable, we'll continue to coordinate the tree fund. JCP&L will comply with that required contribution, and we'll coordinate with that during resolution of compliance, so that will be complied with. The only other condition in that is there is a note on the plans that will be removed that references no tree clearing, so that will also be removed. So all of these will be addressed and added to the plans as part of resolution compliance.
Thank you. And again, just to confirm for the board and the record, the applicant will comply with Howell's ordinance regarding the tree contribution. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. That'll conclude our direct testimony from Ms. Jones.
Is that,
Yeah, I don't have anything further on that. So also the tree fencing is only in the area of the 2 acres to clear. I'm certainly not expecting fencing to go, for any area that you're working in.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying, but that is what I assumed, so.
okay. Board members, Charlie, did you want to?
Yes, Ms. Jones, so the freshwater wetlands GP 21, which, what does that fall under? Is that like a disturbance under a certain threshold?
Yes, so the GP 21 is for under half an acre of wetland and buffer disturbance, and that, again, I just want to clarify, that's for the structures. All of the temporary access is under the blanket permit.
Gotcha. And then the flood hazard area verification and the individual permit, that's for the permanent actual like foundation, the poles in the floodway, because there's the Matiticon River?
Correct, yeah, and it does, just to clarify as well, I think that was in one of your letters, that does also include the 300-foot riparian zone. So
okay.
that's included, that's actually most of the entire corridor has a 300-foot riparian zone.
typically are for like a 5-year duration?
Yes,
Okay. And then the blanket permit for the temporary disturbance. So the temporary disturbance, that's like when activities incur for 6 months or less, generally speaking?
correct.
How long does that blanket permit last for? Is that also 5 years from?
That is 5 years, and again, we just received that, so, and then typically what happens is we'll get an extension, you can get an extension for another 5 years, and then after that total 10 years, you have to basically renew it, and that's what we recently did to get this new permit.
Gotcha. So you're currently till 2030 and then potentially another 5 years till 2035 for all three of those, basically?
Correct.
Okay. And the only question, not question, but it's in our letter, I think they may have attained some of these permits after the last submission that we got, so now that they have them in hand, we just ask that like the notes on the plans as far as like wetlands, like clarify this permit number, just for clarity purposes.
Absolutely, I think it was like number 18 of your, yeah, I did reference that to your letter,
Okay.
and yes, typically it's the file number, and then the notes you indicated will have included on the site plans for sure.
Yeah, and just for the board's record, I mean, these are a lot of sheets in a plan set, so like it takes time to produce these, so some of these may have come in after they physically made the changes to some of these plans, so it's just for procedural purposes.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Anything else from the professionals? Christine, Andy?
Nothing else
Not
from
for
me.
this witness.
Board members, any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, John?
Ms. Jones, so as a biologist, can you give us any insight into the interaction between these 500 kVT lines and employees working around them, residents living in the area? Is that something that you can?
That's not my expertise.
Okay. Because we heard from Mr. Hozempa earlier, but we didn't get too much insight into that interaction. I think that's still an unanswered question there. Is there another expert that we can hear from that can give us a little bit more information on that? Because we're going from 230 kV lines up to 500 kV. It's a pretty, I mean, we're doubling the voltage here. So just like to hear a little bit more about the impact there, the environmental impact to people around these lines.
I could just have a minute to speak to my client, make sure we had the appropriate witness. Is that?
Sure,
okay?
sure.
Yeah.
A minute. Is there anything further from Ms. Jones?
No, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go near it.
Yeah, I think we need to have somebody.
So we do have a witness who could provide testimony on those points. So
Okay.
if it's okay with the board, may I go ahead and call Ms. Pamela Dopart to answer?
Yeah, that's fine, and then we'll just get her sworn in. Now, does she have to give her credentials, or is she, as an expert, since she's going to be asked, answering a kind of a,
I think it would be a good idea
Yeah, I
for
think
us
we'll-
to
okay.
to get her credentials on there. And she may not have been sworn in earlier.
No, she
I'll
wasn't.
do it, Ben, we'll do it now.
We'll do it now. All right. So,
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Please state your name for the record and spell your last.
Pamela Dopart, D-O-P-A-R-T.
Thank you.
Ms. Dopart, can you please provide the board with your educational background and your current employment, please?
Certainly. Hi, good evening.
Good
everyone.
evening.
My name is Pamela Dopart. I am a health scientist with Exponent, a scientific and engineering firm. My background and expertise is in public health. I have a PhD from Johns Hopkins University, Bloomberg School of Public Health, as well as a master's in public health and MPH from the University of Michigan School of Public
Okay,
Health.
I think that's good, sounds good to us.
I think you need a better school to go to.
So, Ms. Dopart, we recently just had some questions from the board about not only health and safety, but also the different capacity with the 500 kV, and also that some of the new structures will be taller and higher, so the conduits will be higher. Just generally, can you please provide an overview of how that works from a health and safety standpoint?
Certainly, yeah. So, when we think about transmission lines and we think about public health and safety, oftentimes what we're thinking of is electric and magnetic fields, or EMF. And so I'm happy to share just a little bit about EMF and how it relates to the project. So EMF, or electric and magnetic fields, are produced by anything that generates, transmits, or uses electricity. So common sources of EMF that we experience throughout our daily lives include all of our electrical appliances and equipment, all of the electrical wiring and lighting in our homes and offices and other buildings, and then, of course, power lines and related infrastructure. Because we live in a very modern electrified society, we are effectively surrounded by EMF in our daily lives from all of the different sources as we move throughout our day. The transmission lines that we're discussing tonight are a source of the same type of EMF as is produced by all of our electrical appliances, hair dryers, vacuum cleaners, electrical motors, things of that nature. A key characteristic of all of electric and magnetic fields from any of these sources is that the levels decrease quickly with distance. So as you move away from the source, whether that's horizontally moving a few feet away, or if it's a vertical distance, an increase in distance, that the levels will drop very, very quickly with that increasing distance. And when we think about exposures to the public, to workers, the distance of that source from that person or from that residence becomes one of the primary factors in understanding what the exposures might be. So the fact that, in this case, the structures are built on the existing right-of-way, so they're not getting closer, the right-of-way is not expanding, and that the structures are generally increasing in height, would have some mitigation effect on the electric and magnetic fields from the project.
Can you share with us any formulas that you happen to know, like relating to these specific voltages, distance relating to these specific voltages, like 500 kilovolts?
So the magnetic field, so two things there. First, electric fields are very easily blocked or shielded by common grounded conductive objects. So buildings, fences, trees are all going to pretty effectively shield electric fields. For magnetic fields, which is typically what we think about and what we study, the magnitude of the field is really going to depend on a few things, the current or the loading that's going through the line at that time, as well as the configuration of the line. So yes, the voltage may be increasing, but as they described, First Energy described, for at least some portions of the line, there'll be multiple conductors on that line, and they can be sometimes designed in a way to basically cancel out some of the magnetic fields and lower the overall magnetic field exposures from that line. So you have what is the specific design of that line? What is the loading at any given time period? And then, of course, again, the distance, which is a big factor. Is that changing or increasing in any way?
What about, like, time of exposure? Like, for example, let's just say we had a lineman working on these lines, a 500 kV line versus a 230 kV line. Would it be expected that there be more limitations to an employee working around those higher voltages, the time that he's exposed at a certain given period, like per day or per hour or whatnot?
Yeah. So two things there. One, the way we typically contextualize exposures is by exposure guidelines or regulations. My background's in occupational health and safety, so all the time, for chemicals, we say, is this exposure above or below the, allowable limit from a health and safety standpoint? For electric and magnetic fields, there are no federal standards or guidelines for EMF exposure for workers or the general public. the state of New Jersey does not have a magnetic field limit as well. There is a electric field limit, an interim limit of 3 kilovolts per meter. From a health and safety standpoint, what we actually can look to is there's these 2 scientific organizations that have done a very thorough review of the research on EMF exposure and health. And based on their review and understanding of the health literature, they have recommended exposure limits that are considered protective of the health and safety of both. They have separate limits for workers and the general public. Generally speaking, from the edges of the right-of-way and beyond, from transmission lines, even of higher voltages like 500, the EMF levels are well below those exposure guidelines.
Okay, so is it fair to say that you don't have any concerns? You're familiar with this project?
Yes, I am.
You don't have any concerns with any of the residents living along this corridor, knowing the types of voltages we'll be dealing with and the distances? Are there any concerns that you have?
Correct. So given both the vertical and horizontal distances of the lines from the residences in the area, we would expect the exposures to be well below these protective health and safety guidelines, yes.
Well below?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
follow-up?
Oh,
to
yeah.
that? So you said at the limits of the right-of-way, so the limits of the corridor, it's below any applicable standards that there would be health and safety concerns. How about like below the right-of-way, right? Because it's not like it's all fenced in and things like that, right? Like if I were on Aldrich Road, I could make a right turn and walk down the corridor, right? Is there any concern for someone walking or riding quads down the corridor or something like that?
So, good question. So, I mean, generally speaking, even directly under the line, the levels tend to be much lower than these health and safety recommended guidelines. That's particularly true for magnetic fields. For electric fields, this is why we have the National Electric Safety Code standard. There can be concerns with, just the opportunity for a shock, or if there's something that's ungrounded that's running parallel to the line. But these are all issues that are taken care of through other standards and requirements through the National Electric Safety Code.
So the corridor, right? You have a right of way to install the line, or JCP&L and First Energy has a right of way to be able to install the lines through the corridor, but it's private property underlying that this is constructed through, right? So if someone were to be continually traversing these right of ways, they'd essentially be trespassing on private property, right? And a lot of these areas are environmentally regulated, and you can't just build a single family house underneath these corridors. There's probably restrictions to that. In your professional opinion, would there be any need for any kind of like advisory signage, like from maybe Aldrich Road heading into the corridor, or from like Route 9 heading into the corridor, just advising the general public of overhead lines and like potential exposure risks? Or is that completely like asking an outlandish question?
No, not at all. So there are certainly cases where the utility company may want to have specific conversations with residents if there's, not related to this project, but just in general, particularly with like farm equipment, or if there's an opportunity for any sort of, stray voltage concerns. But in general, and for this project, and you think about all of the transmission and distribution lines we have throughout our communities, and they don't have signs, and this is because they don't typically pose a health and safety threat to our communities.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Christine?
Nothing for this witness.
Okay. Yeah, Matt?
Just a clarifying question. So in the existing condition now, people wander, do whatever they do. With these moving up in height, would you say that what's going on the ground is basically the same as it was the lower with the older stuff, with the older equipment? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, right, so that is a good point, that there are lines that are there now. So we would expect the presence of electric and magnetic fields to be similar to what they are now. The fact that the poles are higher could result in, a decrease of the EMF levels at the ground level, given the fact that they do indeed decrease with distance.
And I would assume, like, for example, if you're driving under it, let's just say, because obviously there's roads that run underneath, there would probably be a time factor too, right? If you were to stand there and have a conversation versus just kind of pass through, would there be any difference?
So that's a great question, and the answer is no. So when we think EMF, the electric and magnetic fields, if it's helpful, a field is something that interacts with the space around its source, right? So my favorite analogy is to think of a coffee cup, like a hot beverage inside, and when you put your hand on top or near the mug, you can feel the heat, right? That's the temperature field that's surrounding that mug. And as you move your hand further away, it starts to get cooler. It's the same basic idea that these electric and magnetic fields are just interacting with the space around the lines. That is different from, let's say, like a chemical, which, of many chemicals we think of, they can build up in the body over time, they bioaccumulate, if you're exposed, it kind of lingers in the body over time. EMF, there's no residue or lingering effects of EMF. You are exposed at a certain level when you are in the presence of the fields, as long as that level is below the recommended health and safety guidelines.
So it would dissipate from you as you...
And as you moved away, you're no longer exposed, basically. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
I got a curious question. One of my board members laughed at me a little bit, but with birds, like, how does EMF affect birds? Like, does it? I mean, I know birds do sit on power lines and stuff, but the energy field, the EMF, like, how does it affect, say, birds?
Yeah. So there's actually been quite a bit of research done over the years on the impact of EMF, and specifically from transmission lines on both wildlife and livestock. So everything from birds to insects to deer to cattle, sheep. And the research has been very consistent in that the overall evidence does not point to any harmful impacts on reproductive effects, migration, milk production in livestock, and any kind of behavioral or health impacts.
What about marine life?
Well, so the project we're referring to today, of course, is onshore. Offshore cables that run beneath the ocean. There is quite a bit of research out there as well on different species of animals. I am not a marine biologist. I'm a human health expert, but my understanding is that it's very species specific. But generally speaking, most marine life is not negatively impacted by the existence of electric or magnetic fields, buried beneath the ocean floor.
When is EMF an issue, a health issue? I mean, there are health issues related to EMFs. Like, what does that look like? What would have to happen for someone to be physically impaired or bothered or feel the effects of EMF?
Yeah, so just like any other exposure, certainly yes, at high enough levels, you may experience some sort of biological perception or sensation. For EMF, again, there's these two health and safety organizations that have set these recommended exposure guidelines. The levels they're set at are, especially for magnetic fields, are much, much higher than anything we experience throughout our daily lives, and that includes occupational exposures. So you would need an incredibly high exposure level to experience any effects of EMF exposure. And what those effects are very short-term acute effects, things like perception and tingling on the skin, maybe slight micro shocks that similar to when you're shuffling across the floor and you touch something. These are short-term effects that do not cause any long-term health or safety consequences, and again, would occur at much higher levels than anything we're typically exposed to from all the different sources throughout our daily lives.
So it's your professional opinion that so EMF is really, health-wise, really a non-issue?
Unless you're exposed to unexpectedly very, very high levels of exposure.
Which would be what? What's a high level?
So that's a good question. So There's two agencies. There's the International Commission on Non-Ionizing International Commission, I always said this right, so International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, or ICNIRP, and their limit for magnetic fields is 2,000 milligauss. Now, a milligauss may not be a very familiar term.
How would I be subjected to 2,000, what?
2,000 milligauss?
Yeah, what would I have to be around?
You know, there are some maybe very specific, like electric motors, or when you're very up close to an appliance, you're going to have higher levels. So
What type of appliance?
the appliances in your home, let's say it's like a vacuum cleaner. 6 inches from that vacuum cleaner, you may have an exposure of maybe 600 milligauss, 1,000 milligauss. There are studies out there where they've put meters on people and had them use different electrical appliances and measure them. But even right up close to an electrical appliance, you're typically not hitting anywhere near that 2,000 milligauss.
But is that a cumulative?
It's instantaneous. It's just, are you exposed at that
So
level?
during the
at that
course of
given
the
moment?
day, if you get exposed to 300 here, 400 there, 500 there,
It's not additive.
It's
just,
not- it's not.
in that moment, are you exposed at a level higher than?
so it's not like radiation where you would have cumulative, like people in the industry where dosimeters,
Right,
right? So
right, yes.
to calculate how
It is-
much
It does behave
exposure.
very differently than ionizing
So
radiation.
it's different than that.
Mhm. It's all part of the electromagnetic spectrum, but the EMF that we're talking about tonight from transmission lines is very different and behaves very differently than the ionizing radiation sources like X-rays and gamma rays and the things that you're referencing right now.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
There's nothing else, then let's get your planner up, and then we'll get to some public comment.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, Ms. Capone, you were previously sworn. I believe you've appeared before this board many times. So, could you please just reintroduce yourself?
Yes, I have been here once or twice. For the record, good evening, Christine Capone. I'm testifying this evening as a licensed professional planner. I've testified here on numerous occasions and hundreds of other boards in the past 3 decades, and my licenses are current and valid.
We accept your qualifications, as I only said 1 or 2 times before. So,
Yes, thank you, Chairman Mertens. So the reason we're here before the Board of Adjustment tonight is because in order to have this project, we are spanning 5 different zones which do not permit the use as of right. So the ARE2, the R2, the R3, the HD1S, and the SED2 zones are the zones that are impacted this. Now, I did have an opportunity to speak with your planner earlier today because her July 11th review letter indicates that D1 variance relief is required. I do think it's important for the board to understand, for the record, the Schedule 1 in your zoning ordinance actually indicates that public utilities are conditional uses in the ARE2 zone as well as the R2 and R3. And then in the SED2 zone, it lists it lists utilities as a principal permitted use. So while we did have a discussion that we recognize the text of those zones doesn't list these as permitted uses. So I'm told that the text controls when there's a conflict, so that's the way you've always done it here in Howell. So I intend to put the testimony on in the most conservative fashion that the D1 is required, even though I think that the board can certainly take notice of the fact that your schedule does allow it conditionally in the ARE2, R2, and R3, and as a principal permitted use in the SED2 zone. So as a D1 use variance, we have an obligation to demonstrate that we're either consistent with the SECA balancing test or if it was a non-inherently beneficial use, the Medici standards. Here, I think we are categorically an inherently beneficial use, and you've heard some testimony earlier this evening from Mr. Ozempic about the benefits, and when we're dealing with an inherently beneficial use, our first prong is to identify the benefits to the public, and here we have the rebuilding of the aging transmission infrastructure, increasing resiliency and reliability, but also creating creating for additional capacity to the overall network. And that's certainly important to a community like Howell, which in my experience is probably one of the busiest boards in the state of New Jersey. So there's a lot going on here in town. So that's important, certainly of public benefit to Howell Township. Some of the other things that we have to be dealing with when we're dealing with the SECA balancing test is to look at the minimization of any impacts associated with it. And here, I think you can look at the fact that we are in an existing right-of-way transmission corridor. And that's an important distinction here because of disturbance, right? This project is being channeled to an existing disturbed corridor that has improvements in it. I believe it was A23 in evidence where we showed you pictures of the existing towers and the proposed towers. And the existing towers range from about 98 to 158 feet. And the proposed go from about 102 to 197. So it's about a 39-foot change on those towers. But if you saw from A23 in evidence, it was a little hard to tell the difference, right? They didn't look radically different when you looked at those two pictures stacked top to bottom. And we do that for a reason because typically, we have to demonstrate when you're dealing with a D6 variance for height, which we are. The thing that the board is concerned with is, are we impacting the landscape such that the board is the area is out of character or inconsistent with what exists there or the existing landscape? And that's the Jacoby case. And I think that when you look at A23 in evidence, you can certainly be convinced that the additional height for the D6s will not have a substantial detriment on the public good. And then we balance that, right? We balance the impact of the conditions. It's pouring, right? Is that pouring rain? And I think when we balance that, when Howell last re-examined your master plan here in 2023, you had a series of comprehensive goals and comprehensive objectives written into that plan in 2023. Two of them, I think, are on point by this application. One is to continually improve the sustainability profile of the township, and the second is to preserve the high level of public services and provide new facilities where necessary in order to accommodate population growth, economic development, and the changing needs of the residences. So I think when you heard the benefits outlined by Mr. Ozempic earlier this evening, you can be convinced that not only are we consistent with the SECA balancing test, but it also gives us an opportunity to advance some of the comprehensive goals and objectives identified in your 2023 Howell Township re-examination report. In addition to the D1s...
Christine, maybe a little louder, just for the people in the
Okay,
back.
I'm trying to talk over the rain. So in addition to the D1s and the D6s, we should talk about the bulks, right? Because we presented to you that setback table, which I'm sorry confused you, but there has to be some ability to try to keep a record of these poles that we're proposing and what they are. And I agree with Mr. Cunliffe that the lots are not particularly, and the right-of-ways are not particularly regular. So to even apply a typical front yard and rear yard and side yard is very atypical here. And when you think about the fact that those front, side, and rear yard setbacks were not crafted for these type of towers, right? They were crafted for the underlying uses which are permissible in the zoning district, which is why when you're dealing with a use variance, most planners and most professionals will agree that those bulks are subsumed into that D1 because it looks unfairly prejudicial, right, to have all of those bulks applied to a use that wasn't contemplated by the zoning ordinance. And that's essentially what the Price v. Himeji case held a couple years ago, is that when you're dealing with a D1 use variance, you don't have to argue for all the individual bulk variances, and that makes sense because these were not contemplated the setbacks for this. The other thing I would say to the board is that those standards were crafted for actual structures, actual habitable, occupiable structures, which these are not. So I think that certainly the board can take consideration of that when you're considering the litany of bulk variances. The last D variance that I should comment on would be the additional D1 that we would need to have multiple principal uses and structures. As you can see from our setback table, it's about the 7th column over, multiple uses and principal structures. Many of our columns are indicated yes. And I think the testimony earlier this evening was that these get serviced about once a year, so this is not a situation where the multiple structures are inviting a particularly high level of intensity to this site. site. So I think the board can certainly recognize that and find the sites appropriate for the construction of multiple principal uses. The last block, if you will, of the variance relief that we require results to the buffers. And you've heard testimony from several of our earlier witnesses tell you about the restrictions that we have to abide by with respect to where landscaping can be placed in proximity to these structures. So in that case, it really does create a practical difficulty in complying with the landscaping and buffering requirements when we are precluded from having vegetation within proximity of these structures. The other point that I wanted to make as far as the impacts was the fact that we're actually reducing the overall number of poles in the corridor, and I think that certainly speaks to the balancing of the balancing. And why I believe that there will not be a substantial detriment or a substantial negative impact if the board were to move favorably on this application. So I believe that addresses the D1 use variances for all of the structures, regardless of the zones that they're sitting in. I believe it addresses the D1 for the multiple principal uses, the D6 for the height, as well as any ancillary C variance relief that is not considered to be subsumed into the D variances, as well as the buffering. And again, the fact that this is an existing corridor that needs no additional right-of-way to be acquired, I think is something the board can certainly consider in looking at this. And of course, the improvements to the community, to the system, and the fact that we are aligned with comprehensive goals and objectives in your master plan leads me to conclude that from a planning point of view, this application can be moved and granted with no substantial detriment to the public good or the zone plan, right? And that's the test. The test is do not hold this applicant to a standard that there be no detriment, but just that the benefits of the grant of the variances would outweigh any detriment. And I think you have a clear, demonstrated, uncontroverted testimony as to the benefits that this upgraded system will bring to Howell and the greater community. So therefore, that informs my opinion that we meet our burden of proof with respect to the positive and negative criteria, and it's my opinion that the variances can be granted with no substantial detriment or relief to the public good or zone plan.
Okay. Christine?
So I agree with Ms. Cafone's testimony. Overall, there are a few issues that I think go beyond the scope of the general, variance testimony that I think still need to be addressed. I think that we need to know what the intention of all of the structures are, including those that are proposed for the MOAD site if the offshore wind development does not occur. I think the barbed wire fencing is, while that's a waiver, that is also an issue. That is not typically something, the board chooses to agree to.
Yeah.
So I think we need to kind of learn a little bit more about the history of the fencing in that area and see what alternatives there are. But I think really the big issue, which I think goes beyond the variance relief needed, is how all of the structures will be used if they're not connected to the wind.
Good point. Anybody else from the professionals? Okay, so that pretty much concludes your witnesses, right, Mr. Nadell? At this time?
That will conclude
Thank
our
you.
Okay.
testimony.
Thanks, Christine.
You're welcome.
Looking at the time, is the attorney for Mid-Atlantic here? Could you please come up? Good evening.
Good evening. Richard Scott. I'm a partner with the law firm of Rudder and Roy. I represent Mid-Atlantic Offshore Development, MAOD.
Okay. We normally have a 10 o'clock cutoff. We're going to have some public comments. I would hate to have your people who've been here patiently for all this time, and I apologize, but I do not see us getting anything in tonight.
Understood.
So, Eileen, can we reschedule them now, so then,
Sure. August 11th, I have 2 applications on. August 25th, I have 1. And September 8th, I have 1. And September 15th, I have nothing.
Can I just confer with my?
Yeah, sure.
Because there's vacations involved. One
yeah,
of them
no,
is mine,
that's
so
perfectly
I'm sorry.
fine. Take your time.
One sec.
Eileen, what's with the 25th with the 1?
Yeah, I was just going to get up and ask.
That one's a bulk variance,
Oh, okay.
so it's a small one.
Okay. I was going to go on for it, but it's good to save me a trip.
When's your due date?
What's the second meeting in September?
15th, so you're good. Hopefully.
No excuses. Thank you.
Sorry for the delay.
You're fine.
September 15th, I think, would work best. I do have a significant number of witnesses, so is it possible that we could take that night?
Which night?
The 15th, September.
Yes, I'm fine with that as long as
Yeah,
the chairman,
I'm
you're
good
fine?
with it.
Okay. I just will need an extension of time as well from you.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Is anything else you need from me, or?
Okay, so we're getting an extension time.
Then through the end of September 2025?
Yeah, do you want to make it for like
Yeah.
September 30th? Will they have to renotice?
No, they will not.
Okay. Okay. For everybody who's here for that application, BA 2421, Mid-Atlantic Offshore Development, LLC, that will be carried to September 15th with notice to the 30th of September. And I believe that's all we need to put on record for that. So, no further notice. So we're good. So thank you for your patience. And stay dry and drive safely. Okay, are we all set for public comment?
I'll make a motion to go to public, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Jose, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Eileen, statement for public.
The board will now be open to the public. If you have any questions or comments, please come up and state your name and your address.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Jerry Keenan. I'm the president of the New Jersey Alliance for Action, which is based
I
in...
don't mean to interrupt you, just need to swear you if you're...
Sure, go ahead.
You swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So, and our office is based in Edison. We're a statewide organization. We have a chapter right here in Monmouth County. For the record, the Alliance for Action is a nonpartisan and nonprofit group founded back in 1974. What we do, we represent thousands of leaders in business, labor, government, utilities, education, and more. And our focus is simple: boost New Jersey's economy by supporting smart, reasonable, responsible construction and infrastructure projects. And I'm here tonight to voice our strong support for the Larrabee Collector Station, which is being proposed right here in Howell Township. New Jersey's energy needs are growing fast, and Monmouth County is no exception. We need stronger electric infrastructure to keep up with demand and to recover quickly after storms, like we're hearing outside right now. This project upgrades the local grid by connecting new transmission lines at substations, making sure the lights stay on, especially with more flooding and extreme weather that we've been suffering through. The regional grid operator, PJM, is already sounding alarms. Without new facilities like this, we could face capacity shortfalls, and that'll threaten reliability. The Larrabee Collector Station gives us the flexibility to connect new power sources and distribute electricity where it's needed. This is also a big win for the local economy. Utility construction is on track to top $15 billion in New Jersey over the next 2 years, creating thousands of good-paying jobs. This station will be built with local labor and bring improvements to nearby roads, sidewalks, and landscaping. So on behalf of the Alliance for Action, we fully support this project. It's a critical step to improve reliability, stability, and resilience, not just for Howell, but for the entire region. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening.
You swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record, spell your last.
Michael Waldron, 254 from Friendship Road. I have a small farm, and my concern was with the increase of power, because I only got a single tower going down there. They're doubling the power there. So when I touch my electric fence for my animals, I get a little shock now. What am I going to get then? I'm an electrician by trade in the past. So is it going to double? Am I going to be able to use my farm equipment underneath there? I don't know. She said that was my concern. And all the other houses that don't have the trees blocking from the EMF and everything, that are by Friendship Road and everything. That was my only concern. I didn't really get clarity on, am I going to get shocked if I'm cutting or plowing underneath there?
Mr. Nadell, could we have Pam, who is testifying, answer his question?
Sure, let's have Pam.
Because I already get a little shock when it's damp out. You said something about farm equipment, that's what my concern is.
Happy to address.
Hello.
Would you mind just repeating the question?
All right.
About the farm equipment?
All right, I have electric fences on my property, right? And when the animals are out in the fields, I turn it on, right? But sometimes when it's raining now with this 230, I could touch it and I'll get a shock, like some, how much is it going to increase if I go underneath there and it's damp out, like humidity? Am I going to get shocked and knocked down?
Well, yeah.
And my equipment when I go to plow and everything.
Yeah, no, I understood. So, I mean, to me, this is something to definitely discuss with GCP&L. Generally speaking, when if you are getting a shock, there could just be a need to as some grounding to the fence, or there are like mitigation methods to help reduce the potential for shocks and stray voltage. In increasing voltage transmission line, you could see some of the same effects if you're having a problem now, that could remain. So that, to me, would be something that maybe you could walk through with the utility company, and generally there are ways to mitigate that. That's a little outside my scope on the engineering side.
I should have mentioned this earlier too. We do have a representative here tonight from JCP&L, Bob
Yeah.
Rice, who can certainly speak with this gentleman.
Yeah, I think that would be great, and then
All
I
right,
could
that was
probably
only
give
my
you, yeah.
concern.
Okay.
Because there's other people that are right there that do live, their fence is right there, and there's the towers, and it double and increasing with the EMF and everything, and she says it doesn't do anything to you, but I was in the field, it does a little bit. And especially if you live there, you know.
So, yeah, so there's a kind of the safety question of whether, you know, there's an opportunity for an electric shock or stray voltage coming from the line. And what I was speaking to earlier was also more, you know, cumulative exposure to both electric and magnetic fields throughout our day. And that's the area where, you know, research on EMF and health effects has been ongoing for nearly 50 years
Oh,
now.
I read it a little while ago, and it says there's no proven facts or anything about it.
Oh, it's just a very well-studied topic
Yeah.
at this point, and a number of health and scientific organizations have reviewed the research, and none have concluded that, you know, our typical daily exposures to EMF from all of our different sources are resulting in any, you know, chronic long-term health effects from exposure at the levels that we're experiencing.
Because I dealt with high voltage before, and dealing with a vacuum cleaner, you get a shock. With that, you become a Rice Krispie. You know, that's the difference. That's the reason why I'm concerned is because if I use my plow and I start plowing stuff and everything, and treat my grounds, or my livestock gets there, they're going to get killed. That was my only concern. And thank you for answering some of my question, even if it's still vague.
Yeah, you'll point them out to the representative.
We'll be sure to introduce you to Mr. Price before we leave this evening. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mark Parisi, 2 Castle Court.
You swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes. Good evening, Chairman and Board. Nice to see some faces up there. I had a general question. I heard a couple comments tonight tying in the relationship between the Mid-Atlantic project, calling it the wind project, the offshore project, and I was just wondering if this applicant has an expert that can maybe just briefly speak to whether or not the Mid-Atlantic project is exclusively an offshore wind project, or whether or not it's going to be an open access facility for all types of energy generation.
We definitely don't have a witness who can speak to Mayod's project or application. JCP&L did not design that application. Our engineers are not involved with Mayod's property or their site plan application before the board.
Okay, thank you. I guess then I'll direct my question to the board's planner, because I
Yes.
heard Ms. Bell mention something about the wind project. Ms. Bell, do you have any specific knowledge as to whether or not that application, since it's been referenced on the record in this application, is going to be an open access facility?
I don't.
You do not? Okay. I'm going to make a general comment then, that, you know, obviously being a resident of Howell, an advocate, I've served on this board with you guys in the past. I've been involved in the community in many ways. I think this board has a tremendous opportunity in front of it to act favorably on this application and to improve the grid in Howell as lightning strikes as I'm saying these comments. It's a bit ironic, I'd say, right?
Well, they're on.
Yeah. So
far.
let's get through this meeting. But I think that you guys have a tremendous opportunity to improve the grid in Howell for future generations, and that this is a project that is going to help this town move forward. The location and the sister project that's next to it are projects that are going to ultimately be long-term benefits to the community. I would agree with Ms. Cafone that they're inherently beneficial, and I wouldn't want to see this board do anything but act favorably to improve our infrastructure, utility infrastructure in an area of town that's well suited for it, so that this town could have ratables, can have ultimately, if we bring new energy online, which that is the goal in New Jersey, because we have a major problem with, energy shortages, that these will be good ratables for the town for the future. So that's my personal feeling, and that I trust that you guys will consider all of the evidence that's been presented and act favorably. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark. Anybody else?
Motion to close the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
The board will now be closed to the public.
Mr., yeah, please.
Chairman Mertens and Mr. Cunliffe, I've seen the kind of fence that they're talking about. I don't really have a problem with a very restrictive fence around this particular type of property. God knows we've got knuckleheads that are trying to climb it and get in there, and I prefer that we compromise our standards in order to have a very, whatever they recommend, whatever they're using, is probably very appropriate in this case.
Okay. I mean, we just bring it up, I think anytime we get fence, we like to see something that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. If something's old and outdated, we like to see it upgraded. But if the board does not have any particular feeling one way or the other that it's causes some aesthetic impact, it's probably been there for a long time. If it's in good standing and good condition, then, you know.
We said they just replaced it. They just
Yeah.
put up a new one.
And I'll defer to the board on that. I would just say, obviously, if they hadn't gotten any, like, land use permits or approvals from the township
Oh,
to
yeah,
replace it, they would just have to get it after the fact.
Yeah, definitely, but whoever said it, to protect somebody else too. God forbid somebody tries to get in there, a kid, and we don't want that to happen.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Nadell, our planner did bring up some good points that I think maybe we do need further testimony on. I don't believe that since we're closed to public, it's going to be a big, I don't even know if we need to bring back any of your witnesses, but I do feel that I do value their opinion, and I don't feel comfortable right now proceeding until we just get these things that they had questions on resolved with the structures.
Understood, and I think it would be wise for us to return to the board, hopefully soon, with some, possibly an additional witness, with some additional testimony to answer those questions. Since the public comment has been closed, I prefer to not have to bring all of my witnesses back, if that's okay with the board.
I don't think you have to,
We have,
so.
some people have traveled from very far, so that's
No,
fine.
this was noticed, they had their opportunity to come tonight, and I think that there's just a couple of things, I think, personally, I would feel better if we get them, just kind of talk among the planner and our engineer and get them kind of resolved, and then we should be able to move forward with the voting. So, no. Eileen, is there, we could have them, what would be the soonest you could come back? Or, I mean, you want to contact them, how much time do you think you need?
Is there any room on the July 28th agenda for us, since we only are talking about maybe one witness?
I do have 3 applications scheduled, and an extension of time.
The extension of time would be real quick.
Is there any use variance?
Any use variances?
Yes. And the Julie Rich application.
Christine, Charlie, do you think that you could confer with them the next 2 weeks, or should we look maybe the first week, August?
I mean, I think it's a real simple discussion. We just need to know, like, whether or not you need that structure right now, and if it's not for the offshore wind, it's gonna be serving some other use, what is that use? Like, I mean, I think they need to just get together with the applicant and give us some more information on it, and then come back to the board and present what that is, and then I think we're.
So
at a
you think
vote.
2 weeks we could get that done?
Yeah.
Okay. Eileen, I think what I'd like to do is we will put this on the 28th.
Okay.
We will do the extension of time, because that will, and we'll put you second, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. We really appreciate that accommodation.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. So you'll be back on the 28th. Everybody in public, they'll be returning in 2 weeks. Actually, not 5 weeks this time, which is nice, because that was a long break. So,
And that's without further public notice, correct?
that's,
We're gonna
yeah,
carry-
actually,
we're gonna
yeah, you
carry-
got till the
we're gonna
31st, so
carry
maybe
that
that's,
Yes,
that's
you're
more
fine.
incentive to get you back on the 28th,
No,
so.
we appreciate it. There's
Yeah.
a lot of notices that we don't.
Yeah, no, no.
Thank
So
you.
that, I think
I
that's
don't wanna
a good
check that
point,
again.
so
Okay.
we'll accommodate you, so thank you.
No, thank you. We really appreciate the board's time this evening, and we look forward to seeing you in a
Okay.
few weeks. So thank you again.
You're welcome. So at this time, if there's no further business, I have entertained a motion to adjourn. Anne Marie?
Second.
Second by John. All in favor? Good night, we'll see you on the 28th.
Good job.
Yeah.
You got it.